All right, you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Bet.
All right. Good evening, everyone. On the behalf of the Adjustment Syndicate, I'd like to welcome you all to the debate. I'm your moderator and timekeeper, Hoodoo Butterfly. Tonight we have FACTZ debating IMHOTEP the Great on the topic of Are Black People in America's Indigenous to America? As a reminder, the Adjustment Syndicate provides a professional space for all of us to learn and grow. No disrespect will be tolerated. We will start with 3 to 5 minutes of introductions from both MoFax and IMHOTEP the Great. Then we will move on to a brief Q&A between both speakers. After the Q&A between tonight's speakers, we will move into the debate. There will be a total of 3 rounds, each 10 to 15 minutes long. When the debate is finished, we will allow Q&A for viewers to ask the speakers their questions. We will end with final words from MoFax and IMHOTEP the Great. To our speakers, please keep in mind I will be notifying you how much time you have left every 5 minutes and 1 minute before your time is up. When your time is up, the next speaker will be brought up to begin presenting. Thank you, brothers, for your knowledge and expertise. Let's start off with introductions.
Okay, y'all, we still waiting for MHOTEP to show up. We had a little minor technical difficulty. We were supposed to go to Port's channel, but MHOTEP would much rather do it over here since he promoted it for this channel. And I didn't want to postpone it for another week, so I just went ahead and launched it here. So we're waiting for him to step in. And then I also need Port to show me how do I pass the control over. Let me see, guess. Says play, I guess nothing. Okay, so I can I don't have to get distracted. New layout. Let me see. And I gotta tell them that happened because I think they going to Ports right now. I gotta hop on a live again real quick. Hold on.
I believe they're going to stream it from both places, y'all. IMHOTEPs and Ports. If y'all just tuning in, hang tight. We waiting on IMHOTEP the Great and getting things done on the back end. So just hang tight, y'all. It's going to be a good debate.
Peace fam, Port City man. I just got off the phone with Mo.
Man, I don't know what the hell is going on, man.
We're waiting for him to.
He got the link. He's seen the message, so
waiting for
maybe he just trying to load up. We're gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, Port said he got like 30 people over there shooting his live. So they looking. We just gotta wait for IMHOTEP and we can run it.
Everybody hit that like button. We waiting. Like I said, we just.
Yeah, it's here, Kendra. It's in a couple places, but you're in the right place.
This motherfucker might not show y'all. See, when it come to this real getting up here and doing it, these niggas be.
And thank y'all for waiting too. This gonna be good.
Come on now.
Right.
Mo sent them the link.
One more time. We are live. The people are waiting.
Peace to the chat.
Let me throw something up here though, so y'all ain't just staring at us.
I don't know if he got a YouTube page or not.
Share screen, slide.
He ought to be able to get in there off the link. Woken is still crying.
Window. Let's go to.
Shout out to everybody. Backwater Geechee in the chat.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
Peace.
So yeah, y'all, this is the debate right here. Can y'all see this on the screen?
Yeah, we can see it.
All right, because I can't see the comment section or anything. So this is the debate. Are Black people in the Americas, Black people in America, and indigenous to the Americas? All right, and of course, this is pretty much an ongoing debate. We've been trying to get to the bottom of this. They all believe they have the information to show that Black people are indigenous to the Americas, not just mixed, intermingled, Afro-indigenous, none of that, that we were already here and they have no ties to Africa at all. And, this is yet another event that we're putting together to see if the information will actually hold up. And y'all already know what our stance is. So we're just going to, I guess, sing the same song, try to put a little bit of commentary into it and make it so that they're able to understand it. I guess that's all we can do. Let the experts speak and just try to stay logical throughout the whole process and respect our ancestors at the same time. And I go, both sides believe that's what they're doing, but I mean, it's only going to be one set of people that we trace back to, and we would like to see this. So IMHOTEP, if you are in the building, I'll check real quick. How do I just minimize it? Okay, I think he's in here. Boom. Let me go ahead and add you to the stage.
Oh shit, here we go, y'all. Here we go. Everybody like the screen. Like the motherfucking screen.
What's up, brother? You hear me?
Going down.
What's up, bro? Can you hear me?
Going down. I'm out of
Yep.
All right, peace and light. How you doing tonight?
All right, good. How about yourself?
I'm doing good.
All right, this is our moderator in between us, Hoodoo Butterfly. She's done this a few times before, so she has the hang of it. She's neutral, fair when she's in the ring, and she's going to tell us our times. We can run. Can you run it back again, Hoodoo, since he's here now?
Yes, I'll run the intro back again. And I just want to let you know you got to keep me up on the stage in order to hear me give you the time. So just keep me up there. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And one more thing before we start. Port, if you're listening, text me and let me know if I have to initiate the recording process or if it's going to do it by itself before we start, because I want to make sure he has a copy of the live. Okay, I gotta hit record. Let's see. See, this is why I wanted him to do it, because he already had this shit on lock, but I'm gonna find it. Hold on. If not, I'm still gonna get the recording. I would just have to sit here and record it myself and then send it to you, but it'll be easier if it starts recording now. Where's it at?
Is it a way we can share our screen and stuff in here? Can we?
Oh yeah. Let me see settings, recording, record locally, please. Okay. Give me a second, y'all. Hold on. I'm trying to figure out how to get it started. All right, yeah. So he said it's already going to be recording. So you can go ahead and dang, where you go? He probably accidentally disconnected it. So when he gets back, Hoodoo, you can just take it from the top and we'll go from there.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, let me add on. All right, you good?
Yep.
All right, he said it should already be recording, but if it doesn't, I will run it back and just record it, let it record through, and then I'll send you a copy. So we good either way.
Cool.
All right, so good evening, everyone. On the behalf of the Adjustment Syndicate, I'd like to welcome you all to the debate. I'm your moderator and timekeeper, Hoodoo Butterfly. Tonight, we have FACTZ debating IMHOTEP the Great on the topic of Are Black People in America's Indigenous to America? As a reminder, the Adjustment Syndicate provides a professional space for all of us to learn and grow. No disrespect will be tolerated. We will start with 3 to 5 minutes of introduction from both FACTZ and IMHOTEP the Great. Then we will move on to a brief Q&A between both speakers. After the Q&A between tonight's speakers, we will move into the debate. There will be a total of 3 rounds, each 10 to 15 minutes long. When the debate is finished, we will allow Q&A for viewers to ask the speakers their questions. We will end with final words from FACTZ and IMHOTEP the Great. To our speakers, please keep in mind, I will be notifying you how much time you have left every 5 minutes and 1 minute before your time is up. When your time is up, the next speaker will be brought up to begin presenting. Thank you, brothers, for your knowledge and expertise. Let's start off with introductions. And Brother IMHOTEP the Great, FACTZ said that you can go first or second. It's up to you. So I'll leave that up to you.
I'll let Mo go first. They called me out, so you can go.
Okay, Mo, let me know when you want me to begin your time for the introduction.
Okay, yeah, you can start my time. I thought I was unmuted. You can start my time as soon as you see it pop up on the screen. IMHOTEP, you see that present down at the bottom? It says present.
Let me see. Let me move
Whenever
this
you
tab.
can share, that's what you would click on. It'll say
All right.
mute, start cam, settings, stop screen, present. Should be a toolbar at the bottom.
I see it.
All right, bet. All right, so start my time when I share this, and then share screen. Then what's going on? Boom. 1 second, please. And did it take my goddamn PowerPoint? Hold on, y'all. I think something is stuck open. Okay, this should be it. All right, y'all see it?
Yes.
Okay, so this is my opening statement right here. 8 reasons why Black people are not indigenous to the Americas. 1, most Black people in the Americas are the descendants of the transatlantic slave trade beginning in the early 1500s. 2, indigenous people of the Americas are made of Native Americans, Aztecs, Incas, Mayans, and Olmecs. 3, indigenous refers to the people inhabiting a land prior to the making of a state and or the colonization of European explorers. Number 4, no matter when Black people arrived in the Americas, most still arrived alongside Europeans, making both people indigenous to foreign lands and not the Americas. Many nations around the world, we're on number 5, my bad. Many nations around the world including nations at odds with one another, have extensive documentation of the transportation of slaves from the African continent to the Americas dating back to the 16th century. Number 6, advancements in genetics stand as supporting evidence for the primary sources of colonization and explorations that initiated and sustained the transatlantic slave trade. Number 7, archaeological evidence found throughout the Americas show the distinct cultures of those who peopled the regions of the Americas. This proves the Black people in the Americas were not stripped of their so-called Native American culture or cultures, but they had an entirely different culture from that of the indigenous Americans. Number 8, culture such as language, art, literature, beliefs, food, fashion, celebrations, and more assisted Black Americans with preserving their African roots. And we're going to get into the majority of these points here, but not all of them. But I just wanted to lay that out just to, set the ground for it. And yeah, I'll yield my time with that.
All right. Thank you, IMHOTEP the Great. It is your turn to introduce yourself. You have 5 minutes. Let me know when you're ready. You're muted if you're talking.
All right, are you guys able to see my screen?
No, not yet. There we go.
Okay, it's up now.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. All right, so pretty much I'm here to showcase that it was a Negroid civilization in America prior to colonization. Good evening. So peace and blessings to everybody here tonight, everybody in the chat. Peace and blessings to the creator, all praise is the Creator and all praises to our ancestors. The fact is that it is an ancient civilization. It was in the Americas prior to Christopher Columbus, and I'm just here to prove that. My main purpose is just to show people information, because I think that's the first thing for us to start building and start healing, to first understand where we are from and who we are. This is not a debate for me. I want to present information to the people, so people can understand that it's a fact that America was a Negroid continent. That's not a belief, that's a fact. It is what it is. No matter what information anybody show, nobody can break that, nobody can change that. That is a fact, that it was not just a civilization in the Americas, it was a high culture civilization, rival Egypt and many other high class civilizations on the earth, which most people would say Egypt is the greatest representation of civilization on the earth. And the civilizations in Americas could, we would say, even rival, or could be even greater than that of Egypt. So that's my whole purpose here, to share information on this particular topic and show that it was definitely a Black civilization in Americas prior to Columbus, and 90% of us, maybe even 95% of us, descend from that civilization. I'm done with the intro.
Okay, thank you. Now we can move on to question and A between the two of you. Either one of you can start with question you might have for each other before we move into the debate.
Okay, cool. Y'all hear me?
Yes.
Good. So I just want to I have one question, and it's just for clarity, because we have a lot of different titles, and I've been doing these debates structured and chaotic, but we're all talking about the same thing, right? We're talking about the people who are considered African American. They were here already.
Correct.
That's all I got to say.
We was conquered on our own homeland.
Okay.
And I do have a question for you. If we came from Africa, what kingdoms would you say, or we're going to get into that tonight, what kingdoms and everything we came from?
The kingdoms specifically it's a lot of different tribes that we came from. So, some people may have Mali in their blood. The kingdom may have fallen at the time. They may have been apprehended by another kingdom. They may have been taken from a kingdom that was operating, or they could have just been on the outskirts. That all depends on what you find out about what your blood is comprised of. But yeah, I'm pretty sure we all connect to one or more kingdoms because we're mixed with a lot of different tribes.
All right, any more questions, or should we move on to the debate?
That's it. I just had one question.
All right, so we are going to start with FACTZ, and you let me know when you are ready to present, and I will start your time. Remember, I am letting you know every 5 minutes your time.
Okay.
You don't have to worry about it.
That'll work. All right, just as soon as you see it pop up, we can start. Are we rolling?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, cool. I want to start with the definition of indigenous. Okay, we have Collins here on the left. Indigenous people or things belong to the country in which they are found rather than coming there or being brought there from another country. Okay, the one on the right is from dictionary.com. It says originating in and characteristic of a particular region or country, native, often followed by to. Indigenous, relating to or being a people who are the original, earliest known inhabitants of a region or are the descendants. Okay, so that seems pretty clear. Next, I want to get into Mesoamerica, because it's only right to give a nice foundation for that before we get into any more specifics after dealing with that definition of indigenous. This is pre-Columbian civilizations, the Aboriginal American Indian cultures that evolved evolved in Mesoamerica, part of Mexico and Central America, and the Andean region, Western South America, prior to Spanish exploration and conquest in the 16th century. The pre-Columbian civilizations were extraordinary developments in human society and culture, ranking with the early civilizations of Egypt, Mesopotamia, and China. Like the ancient civilizations of the Old World, those in the New World were characterized by kingdoms and empires, great monuments and cities, and refinements in the arts, metallurgy, and writing. The ancient civilizations of America also display in their histories similar cyclical patterns of growth and decline, unity and disunity. And the last part, talking about these cycle patterns, the growth, decline, unity, and disunity, is a key part to pay attention to, because a lot of the talk surrounding this topic is built upon the notion that something was completely erased and then replaced with something else. Specifically, our people's history allegedly was taken and then it was replaced by some fake people and a fake. Now, I'm not saying IMHOTEP is saying that, but I just in case that happens here, I want to make it known that their history was not destroyed. The people who were indigenous to this land, and I'm going to show proof of that and connect it back to who we are today and back to who they are today and how influence happened both ways. Okay. And it's clear distinctions when this happens. All right, and that was from Britannica. I don't know why I had that out of order. That's supposed to be it. Okay, then we're also going to go to the transatlantic slave trade. Okay, transatlantic slave trade, a segment of the global slave trade that transported between 10 million to 12 million enslaved Africans across the Atlantic Ocean to the Americas from the 16th century to the 19th century. It was the second of three stages of the so-called triangular trade, in which arms, textiles, and wine were shipped from Europe to Africa, enslaved people from Africa to the Americas, and sugar and coffee from the Americas to Europe. All right. And this is from Oxford Research Encyclopedias. Atlantic Slavery and the Slave Trade, History and Historiography. These are the key points that I have pulled from this article. Number one, over the past 6 decades, the historiography of Atlantic slavery and slave trade. I have those in bold for a reason, because there's Atlantic slavery and then there's also the slave trade. It has shown remarkable growth and sophistication. Historians have marshaled a vast array of sources and offered rich and compelling explanations for the 2 great tragedies in human history. And these are great tragedies in human history. Great tragedies is what is something dangerous to mess around with, because it's well documented. From the 16th to the mid-19th century, approximately 12.5 million enslaved Africans were forcibly embarked on slave ships, of whom only 10.7 million survived the notorious Middle Passage. Captives were transported in vessels that flew the colors of several nations, mainly Portugal, Britain, France, Spain, and the Netherlands. That's something key to pay attention to as well when dealing with your DNA. We're not going to go too deep in that, but those things pop up for people, and that's a hell of a fucking coincidence that those people come from that part of that region of the world. They're on the coast of Africa, and then they go to the Americas.
10 minutes.
Okay, thank you. And then they go to the Americas all up along those coasts. And then we have blood ties when we do our DNA test to all the coasts and those specific European nations that did the transport. That's crazy, but we'll get to that in another debate when we get to DNA. I just wanted to point that out real quick. Ships departed from ports located in this country, in these countries or their overseas possessions, loaded slaves at one or more points along the coast of Africa, and then transported them to one or more points in the Americas. Number 3, upon arrival in the Americas, Africans often found themselves in equally hostile environments. Slavery in the mining industry and on cash crop plantations, especially those that produce sugar and rice, significantly reduced Africans' life expectancies and required owners to replenish their labor force. Pay attention to that, because that's what kept the trade going, especially in South America. because they were literally working people to death. People were revolting, they were fighting, they didn't have a strong foothold or a control or a master plan yet because they were kind of winging it. It wasn't something that they have been practicing, shipping people over those long distances like that. It was, slavery existed, but it wasn't this form of slavery yet. You see what I'm saying? This is more intense. Replenish for slavery through the slave trade. By contrast, slave systems centered on less intensive crops, and the services industry, particularly in cities, ports, and towns, often offered enslaved Africans better chances of survival and even the possibility of achieving freedom through manumission, by purchase, gift, or inheritance. These apparent advantages did not necessarily mean that life was any less harsh. Neither did the prospect of freedom significantly change slaves' material lives. So when people speak about prisoners of war and it was indentured servitude, or they had programs where they were trying to rehabilitate, certain types of criminals. So slavery was looked at as a way to take these criminals away from one place where they're a danger to people and then have a program set up somewhere else where they can work, learn to be civilized, and then be freed. All of that still can be included in the story of history because there is a wide spectrum. I mean, the history of slavery, my bad, because it is a wide spectrum. But for us, it's unique because like it just said, these advantages didn't help us because it was a discrimination and it was a hatred towards our people for who we were long before they started instituting these so-called hero missions where they want to come help us and they want to make deals with us and do trades. We got stabbed in the back. So yeah, indentured servitude happened, prisoners of war happened, it was criminal programs and all that, but they still kept us anyway. And even in people's freedom, they would, when you get your freedom, they would let you go and then send people out to hunt you, or somebody else would try to catch you and sell you somewhere else. So when you got free, you were on your own. Few individuals managed to obtain manumission, and those who did encountered many other barriers that prevented them from fully enjoying their lives as free citizens. Number 4, in spite of those barriers, slaves challenged their status and conditions in many ways, ranging from quiet forms of resistance, slowdowns, breaking tools, and feigning illness at work, to bolder initiatives such as running away, plotting conspiracies, and launching rebellions. Although slavery provided little room for autonomy, Africans strove to maintain or replicate aspects of their cultures in the Americas. Whenever possible, they married people with their same backgrounds, named their children in their own languages, cooked foods using techniques, styles, and ingredients similar to those in their motherlands, composed songs in the beats of their homelands, and worship ancestral spirits, deities, and gods in the same fashion as their forebears. Okay, so these key things these things here are very important when dealing with our history, because just like the indigenous people, they may have preserved more of their history here after colonization, but we did the same thing, right? They could only preserve more of their history, which is going to really ruin the theory that we were native here. Or indigenous here, because they preserved it. It wasn't as much as they would have liked to, but all of them wasn't against colonization. They had internal battles just like we did in our homeland, and their systems that they already had in place, the Europeans just took over them and continued them. So this idea, when people tell you that they destroyed it and flipped it and erased all the history, that shit's cap. And all of the Europeans here didn't even get along for them to properly
5
erase
minutes.
it. 5 minutes?
Yes.
All right, bet. Now let's go to 5 minutes. Okay, do I want to go directly to this? Okay, yeah, this is important. This overview may seem, and we're in the same paper up here. I didn't go anywhere. All right. This overview may seem rather free of controversy, but it is the fact. It is, in fact, the result of years of debates. Pay attention to that. This is from years of debates, people. This isn't something that Europeans got together and sat down and was like, we're gonna make them think that this, and we're gonna do, and then we're gonna take ships, and we're gonna draw ships, and then we're gonna fake ships, and that's not what happened. That is a hell of a hassle. It would be easier to just leave it like it was, right? Why would you struggle that much to create this shit? This wasn't something that was stamped in history already, especially when the European was telling a story. So you guys are correct when you say that the European lies and he tries to cover up shit. Exactly. Like slavery. They didn't agree that it happened at first. This was a fight. Okay. This overview may have seemed rather free of controversy, but it is in fact the result of years of debates, some still raging, and research conducted by generations of historians of slavery and the slave trade. Perhaps no other historical fields have been so productive and transformative over such a short period of time. Since the 1950s, scholars have developed and refined new methods, created new theoretical models, brought previously untapped sources to light, and posed new questions to shine bright new light on the experiences of enslaved people and their owners, as well as the social, political, economic, and cultural worlds that they created in the diaspora. Although debates about Atlantic slavery and the slave trade go back to the era of abolition, historians began grappling in earnest with these issues in the aftermath of World War II. Early scholarship focused on the United States intended to articulate views of slavery that reflected elite sources and perspectives. Inspired by the U.S. civil rights movement and second wave feminism and wider global decolonization campaigns, the 1960s and 1970s witnessed the rise of approaches to the study of slavery rooted in new social history, which aimed to understand slaves as central historical characters rather than mere victims of exploitation. So our people and other nations helped us revise the history. This was our people initiated this. We looked at the books and other people looked at it and said, yo, this isn't fair. You're not telling the whole story. You're saying you civilized people and you were just making deals with them and they're just prisoners of war and indentured servants and they're just working. They started that shit. And we had to go in and make the corrections along with the indigenous people. They glossed over their story and tried to downplay it as well. And now we are in the field with them and we are allowed to speak about what really took place. Okay. And how much time I got left?
1 minute and 39 seconds.
Okay, I'm gonna just go ahead and finish this off. Around the same time, a group of scholars trained in statistical analysis sparked passionate debates about the extent to which quantitative assessments of slavery and slave trading effectively represented slaves' lived experiences. To more vividly capture those experiences, some historians turn to new or underutilized tools, particularly biographies, family histories, and microhistories, which provided windows into local historical dynamic. The significance of the penetrating questions that these fruitful debates raised has been amplified in recent decades in response to the growing influence of transnational and Atlantic approaches to slavery. Atlantic works have required the gathering and analysis of new data on slavery and slave trade around the world, encouraging scholars from previously underrepresented regions to challenge Anglo-American dominance in the field. Finally, the digital turn in the 21st century has provided new models for developing historical projects on slavery and the slave trade and help democratize access to inaccessible sources. This article draws on the rich history of scholarship. I'm sorry, this shit is like going off my screen. Scholarship on slavery and the slave trade to illustrate major theoretical and interpretative shifts over time and raise questions about the future prospects for the dynamic field of study. Okay, and I yield.
Time. Thank you. And IMHOTEP, it is your turn. And let me know when you are ready.
Peace to the chat. Thank y'all for showing up. Thanks for the support. Just waiting for the brother to get back. Okay, boom. Here we go.
Peace. Sorry about that, everybody. I'm having a little trying to learn how to navigate the thing here. So, my bad. But, okay. So, I want to start here. I do want to say in response to some of the things Brother FACTZ did say, it was an indigenous slave trade here. When the colonizers did come on here, it was a slave trade all throughout the American continent. But before we do start, I want to start my information out at first proving that it was an ancient high culture high culture civilization that existed in the Americas. First and foremost, before we even get into description and depictions of the indigenous people or the indigenous Americans, we first want to start off that it was this high culture civilization that did exist on this continent. And then after that, the next round, then we're going to do the description and the descriptions of the indigenous Americans, showing that it was Negro people and descriptions of people who would say Negro, who people can confuse with an African, all throughout the Americas. We're going to go into some churches over in Europe and synagogues in Europe in part 2, and show you that they're depicting the American people as who you will call today's African Americans. And in part 3, we're going to talk about the trans-American indigenous slave trade. As I stated, it was an American slave trade. When Christopher Columbus came over here, he actually was the first slave trader. He was the first slave trader, and most conquistadors who came back, they took slaves back to their native country. So back to Spain, back to France, and back to Portugal. They took them all throughout Europe, and everybody would also, the indigenous people was being traded throughout the Americas. So people from the Caribbean islands were being sent to North America, and people from North America was being sent to the Caribbean islands and also to South America. So they switched up the slave trade on us. And one of the biggest things is going to be loss of indigenous title and talking about the Indian Wars and how our society collapsed if we get time for it. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get part 1 started. An ancient civilization in the Americas. If an ancient Moorish, because we call ourselves Moors, Hebrews, Israelites, African Americans, some people would say, which is a misnomer, but we are indigenous people. So all these different terms, people got to understand they're all the same terms. You're just talking about different time points in histories. Some may be relating to a religion. Some may be relating to the spiritual system. Some may be relating to title, like Indian is a title. Indian just means indigenous, a title. So we are all those things. So if the indigenous nations that lived here in America was Moorish or Black, how did we get in this state that we are today? How did we fall into this particular state? The number one thing that happened, like it has happened everywhere on earth, is going to be European imperialism and the doctrine of discovery. It's important for us to understand and talk about the doctrine of discovery because it was the Pope who sent out in 1452 that gave the conquistadors and all these different kingdoms over in Europe, he gave them the permission to go to the Americas or any non-Christian lands on the earth and go and conquer and enslave the people. Enslave the people. The Pope actually said this. So if we get some time in part 3, we're going to show you that the Pope did get permission to not just take the land, but enslave the native inhabitants. And that's exactly what they did, enslave the native inhabitants. But from European imperialism, then that goes to colonization. When they actually got here, after the Pope gave them permission to go enslave the native inhabitants, and they got here, they colonized the land. That colonized the land for the purpose of number 3, capitalism. For them to get riches out the land and trade these different resources on the worldwide market. So this whole thing that we're in this situation today is all about greed. It started with greed. Them being greedy and them seeing different fruits, vegetables, and just different things in this part of the world Mind you, this was a lot of people. If you wasn't melanated, you couldn't come to the Americas because a lot of them didn't know how to navigate the seas. See, over in 1452, they was conquering the Moors. That's when Spain, remember, they was ejecting the Moors. Where did the Moors go? Understand that. So when they got over here to America, they seen all these different things. That was the first opening to capitalism, where they started taking all these different commodities and trading on the worldwide market. That capitalism gave way to racism. They took the indigenous people, they put them in a caste system. They put the white people on the top, they put the black people on the bottom, or the indigenous people on the bottom by giving them the title of black. They extinguished our title. They took us from having the title of indigenous. Indigenous is not a person, anything. Indigenous is just a title. You're indigenous, that means you're indigenous to the particular land. So indigenous came to turn into being Indian. They took you from that and gave you black. And then we know how it went. They didn't change it from black to colors, to Negroes, back to blacks, to colors, then to African Americans. But black is just a caste system. Black and white is a caste system. Then that caste system gave way to white supremacy. Then it gave way to white privilege, which is also gives way to indigenous oppression or black oppression. So with all those European imperialism, colonization, capitalism, racism, white supremacy, and white privilege, that equals total societal system, total societal continental collapse. That's what we're living in. Our whole society was collapsed due to warfare and all those things: imperialism, colonization, capitalism, racism, white supremacy, and white privilege. It collapsed. And from it collapsed, we then got total system dynamic. And Dr. Francis Cress Wilson talks about that in the ISIS paper with the system of white supremacy, that it's all in education, economics, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, war, and medicine. We have European imperialism and all those things. So America is experienced, or the indigenous people of America is experienced white supremacy because of imperialism, European imperialism, and a doctrine of discovery. So I want to start again. We're going to get into the depictions of the indigenous people, but we want to start that America was a high culture civilization, because once we start that America was a high culture civilization, we then can see that America, the antiquity, which means history, the antiquity, or which history means, goes back very, very far of America. So this article right here, the name America, or America, just basically stating America did not come from America Vespucci. America came from when Christopher Columbus and the different conquistadors came down. These people said their name of their land was Amaruca. Amaruca. These people said that, and this is from Frank Joseph in the Atlantis Encyclopedia. So you got to connect the dots here. You're going to have to go to many different things. They also said their land was called, bearing the title, the Feather Serpent. Land of the Feather Serpent. So when you hear serpent, understand serpent represents wisdom, health, and divine cosmic Kundalini energy. And the feathers, they're always going to have to talk about the feathers. And you see, we always wore feathers. And also notice that they have on right here, they got the Indians. You see on the United States, the eagle has the bows and arrows. So I'm gonna go a little quicker.
I'm sorry. Can you pause this time? Are y'all able to see what he's showing? Are you showing something with feathers, or is it just the introduction?
You can't see the other. Yeah, I'm showing.
All I see is introduction, part 1, an ancient high culture existed. That's all I see.
Yeah, it didn't go. It must ain't going to the next screen then. Can you see it now?
Okay, yeah. All right, it moved.
Okay.
You can reset. You want to reset it?
All right. Can y'all see it now?
Yeah. Do you want to continue? Yeah. Do you want to wait? Did you switch it yet? We see the name America or Amuraka. That's what we see.
Okay. Okay. Maybe if I do it, I'm probably gonna have to do it like this. Okay. Yeah. So I was just showing. I don't know if everybody's seeing that, but basically, right here is showing you right here that the name America or Amaruca. This is from the Atlantis Encyclopedia by Frank Joseph, and it's showing that the name America is not by Amerigo Vespucci.
Brother,
And all
pause
the books are-
again. Is your mic, is his mic sounding all right to y'all? This is a little traffic on the mic.
Can you hear me no better now?
Yes, now I can hear y'all.
Yeah,
Start your
that's
time.
better.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So this is what I was showing though. Basically, this article right here just shows that America, the true name of America, Amaruka. If you notice, those principles are going to be Kemetic or Egyptian names. Again, Amaruka. This basically when the Spanish rolled up and they rolled up on the indigenous Americans, they told them that was the name of their land in many different ways. It means lands of the feathered serpent. So at the same time, the serpent is not evil. That's what I was showing you guys, the feather and everything. I'm gonna move to the next slide just in case I know the time going. Okay, so this is showing civilization in the Americas. All of America was a highly civilized, advanced culture. We had trade and everything here in America. America had all aspects of a high-class society from North, Central, and South America. One of our biggest cities in America was right here in the middle. Right here is going to be Cahokia. That was one of the biggest cities in North America. And then we had another one, Tenochtitlan, down in Mexico, and there's another one in Peru, of the Incas. These was all big centers of civilization on this land. Now, humans in America have existed 250,000 years ago. We have this book, Discovering the Mysteries of Ancient America, The Lost History and Legends Unearthed and Explored, again by Frank Joseph. And the article that's here right here is saying humans in America 250,000 years ago by Dr. Virginia Steen McIntyre. What happened here is that they found a mammoth pelvis, and in that mammoth pelvis, they had went and got it tested and got the dates tested for it. The dates tested back first to 20,000 years. When she took it somewhere else, she noticed that the C14 method told her it was 40,000 years old. Now, if we're finding things in America, let's start before we even go deeper. If you find things in America 20 and 40,000 years ago, you know nobody else could have did it but Negroes, because nobody else lived on Earth. No other culture of man lived on Earth. All these other people, Europeans, didn't even exist then. So this is by carbon dated. So when they first did it, it was 20,000. Then they took it back to 40,000. Then it went to an astonishing 250,000 degrees. I mean, I'm talking about degrees, 250,000 years. It went back 250,000 years back. Now, this is just another slide just showing that same thing right there. Like Virginia McIntyre, she did go ahead and find it, and she dated back 250,000 years. She sent it to somebody named Barney Sasbo, and that's who came up with the 40,000 year. And then that once they tested the pelvic again, it went back to either could be 600,000, give or take, to 340,000 years back. So it could have been people on this continent back 250,000 years ago. And these are not the only people saying this. A lot of people say this about America, and it's coming back deeper and deeper. See, as now with the advent of technology, people can date things back and find out like how far back it go. And that's putting holes in all their lies. How they're saying everybody came from the Barren State. These people didn't exist to come from the Barren State straight 250,000 years ago. If that makes sense to y'all? Now we got some more articles here in that same book, Ancient America Unearthed. And this is just another article by Mark Rowland. And it says right here that a major discovery to the contrary made 2 years ago by university-trained experts and independent validated earlier this summer confirms a human presence in America some 40,000 years ago. The finding is additionally important because it proved that men were on the move around the world much earlier than mainstream scholars would have us believe. Moreover, it pointedly applies that the 40,000-year-old residents originated in some place other than Mongolian. So they're telling you that the Mongolians, the people they're calling Indians, are not the people who was here 40,000 years ago. That's what they're saying. The people who was here couldn't have been the Mongolians 40,000 years ago. And Mark Rowland is saying that it's not the Mongolians. Now, in addition to the pelvic bones, In addition to them saying people was here 40,000 years ago, they have found footprints 38,000 years old in America. We're going to read this right here. I ain't going to read the whole thing because I know we only got 5 minutes, but it said the footprints are clearly older than 38,000 years. He and his colleagues additionally employed laser scans and rapid prototype equipment to create highly accurate three-dimensional copies, accurate to a fraction of a millimeter. So again, we have footprints in Americas 38,000 years ago. We have remains in Brazil 16,000 years ago. This in the same article, come from Mark Rowland. Then, who is responsible for lying about this Bering Strait fable? It is Washington, D.C. Now, these are archaeologists saying this. This is not Imhotep the Great saying this. This is archaeologists. One of the authorities long accused of promoting the Bering Land Bridge fable was the famous Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C. Now, why would Washington, D.C. be pushing this Bering Land Bridge fable? They're calling it a fable, you see? Promoting of the Bering Land Bridge fable. Washington, D.C. promotes that because Washington, D.C. knows they have an aboriginal and they miss. That's Washington, D.C. dirty little secret. See, like every country in the Americas, Washington, D.C. has an aboriginal, which is the Black American, us. That's why Washington, D.C. is all on that. They only want to start history at 2,000-3,000 years ago with the Americas because they don't want you to know stuff going back 50,000, 2, 3, 4, 500,000 years ago over here in this land. Because their whole sense of history will break down. Now, here's another one. In another book we in, Queen Mew and the Egyptian Sphinx. This book is called by Augustus Leplejon. And he just flat out says it. America, oldest continent on the face of the earth. At the top, he says, the learned wranglers on this shadowy and dim point forget that all leading geologists now agree in the opinion that America is the oldest known continent on the face of the planet. That the fossil remains of human beings found in variation parts of it, far distant from each other, prove that man lived there in times immemorial, and that we have not the slightest ray of light to illuminate the darkness that surrounds the origin of those primeval mans. Did we get that again? Man has lived in America since time immemorial. And America is the oldest continent on the face of the planet. Now, all these people all these people just set it together to make this up. They're doing laser scans right here that's coming back and telling you things in this land is 38,000 years old, 250,000 years old. All right, now let's go right here. Queen Mew. Now, it said America, the oldest continent on the face of the earth. Now we're going to go to ancient Mexico and Egypt, 10 parallels. Now, the whole point, what I've been at, is to show y'all that America was a high culture civilization. So if Egypt is the highest culture civilization ever, America and Egypt should be synonymous, like we're already been saying. So it's America and Egypt have many parallels. I'm going to show you all this.
1 minute.
Man, how do I? Oh, there you go. I'm gonna have to come back with it because I was trying to pull it up. I'm trying to learn how to switch my screen to show something else, so they can go ahead and get it though. But
Ten seconds.
You can pause your time until you get it up. You ain't gotta.
Okay, it's cool, man. I'll just do it there. I'll show a little more of it next time I come back.
All right, no problem.
Okay, well, So if you need me to pause your time for, this next round, you guys just let me know and I'll pause the time. But now we are moving on to round 2. So let me know when you're ready, Mo.
Just unshare. You should see stop sharing. IMHOTEP. All right, bet. Let me. Okay, I'm not going to respond to everything you said because I have to go back to what we were talking about. But I have to point this out because it is relative in a way to what I was trying to illustrate for you earlier. And you just walked right into it. It's amazing, kind of, I guess. But here's what I was trying to tell you that was occurring, and we all agree on this, right? You see my screen?
Yes, you can see your screen.
Okay, so this is the guy who wrote that Atlantis Atlantis Encyclopedia. His name is Francis Joseph Collin, born November 3rd, 1944. Is an American formal political activist and Midwest coordinator with the American Nazi Party, later known as the National Socialist White People's Party. I can't even get that one out of my mouth. After being ousted for being partly Jewish, which he denied in 1970, Collin founded the National Socialist Party in America, NSPA. All right. That's all we need for his background. The rest of it is for somebody else. Okay. And just for further proof, because a lot of names popped up that had the same name. So I checked his work, his catalog, and it's right there. If you guys can see it, it says the Atlantis Encyclopedia. New Page Books, 2005. And that's that dude. Okay. But that's what I was telling you earlier, that these people had control over history. And if you check out what this is, actually, let me go back. Well, I'm not going to go too far into it. Matter of fact, just go look at it. If you just scroll through, it's either on his biography or it's somewhere in his early life, somewhere down there. But you'll see it. It tells you exactly, what what the book was about and what he believed in. You can see it in his other works. It says Atlantis in Wisconsin, new revelations about the lost sunken city. He Last of the Red Devils, the lost treasure of King Juba, Atlantis and other lost worlds. I mean, the dude was fanatical with it. That's what he was into. Okay. And then the other thing I want to respond to here, if y'all can still see my screen, is Negroid. Negroid is a historical grouping of human beings once purported to be an identifiable race. Once purported to be an identifiable race. It was used as a synonym and superset of Congoid. In former times, many people divided human beings into 3 races: Negroid, Mongoloid, and Caucasoid. And again, it goes back to them. We weren't involved in this stuff. So it's so ironic that you guys tell us like, oh, the European, they made up stuff, they controlling history and all this shit. Well, why are we still fucking with the stuff that they made up? Our people have made their way into these fields and we are correcting the bullshit, the fuckery that they're talking about, and we kicking their asses the fuck out of here. Right? And we're telling the truth, and now we're involved in telling our story. And as soon as we gain weight doing that, we're coming back with the shit that our people just worked to get rid of. Negroid is talking about someone that looks like an African because they got some of those African features like this shit. But we have found out, along with other people who were able to humble themselves and realize that their forefathers made a lot of mistakes. And some of them, or most of them, didn't make mistakes. They were doing it on purpose to deceive people because they were looking for world dominance and world power. Okay. So to the point they'll even make a hoax to make something look a certain type of way. So as you can see here, they would like use certain things like the orbital openings, rectangular, square, the nasal spine, very small, prognathism, prognathic. Speaking about the jaw, mandible, and shit like that, they would use all of these things to just go, yep, that's Negroid right there, cool. And it's still that's the other thing. But they did try to associate it sometimes with it being a race, and that's what became a problem. But that's outdated because of European-centered sciences, aka pseudoscientists. Politically driven academia. Like that's what we're fighting against here. So The etymology, Negroid as Portuguese or Spanish and ancient Greek etymological roots. It literally translates as black resemblance from the Portuguese and Spanish word Negro. See, the Spanish word Negro is actually for the black people, right? The Negroid is black resemblance. All right, so that's that. Now let's get back to what we were talking about. I think I left off here. We're going to go to the deal somewhere in here. History, resources, historical context, facts about the slave trade and slavery. Okay, so we're still dealing with our side of our arrival, where we come from, the majority of us in the Americas today, how we got here, and how can we connect these dots? How do we really, other than saying, oh, I'm from Africa because, we just know that from our family passing that down, right? Because the European is not telling us that. I don't care what the fuck y'all say. The European is not telling us we're from Africa. I've done surveys on multiple lives, other people's lives, my lives. Everybody says that their family are the one who told them. Then they try to spin it and say that, okay, well, your people were indoctrinated. Let's cut the bullshit. So how can we connect these dots? Let's go through a little bit more of this, and then we're going to seal it. All right, we're going to do more than connect the dots. We're going to connect the dot, and then we're going to seal that shit closed. Okay, so the first African, thank you. The first Africans forced to work in the New World left from Europe at the beginning of the 16th century, not from Africa. The first voyage carrying enslaved people direct from Africa to the Americas probably sailed in 1526. The number of people carried off from Africa reached 30,000 per year in the 1690s and 85,000 per year a century later. More than 8 out of the 10 Africans forced into the slave trade crossed the Atlantic between 1700 and 1850. The decade 1821 to 1830 saw more than 80,000 people a year leaving Africa in slave ships. Well over 1 million more, 1/10 of those carried off in the slave trade era, followed within the next 20 years. By 1820, nearly 4 Africans for every 1 European had crossed the Atlantic. About 4 out of every 5 women who crossed the Atlantic were from Africa. The majority of enslaved Africans brought to British North America arrived between 1720 and 1780. Africans carried to Brazil came overwhelmingly from Angola. Africans carried to North America, including the Caribbean, left mainly from West Africa. That's a hell of a coincidence, because that's where our shit lines up at, right? Well over 90% of enslaved Africans were sent to the Caribbean and South America. Only about 6% of African captives were sent directly to British North America. Yet by 1825, the U.S. population included about 1/4 of the people of African descent in the Western Hemisphere. U.S. slavery compared to slavery in the Americas. Plantations in the United States were dwarfed by those in the West Indies. In the Caribbean, many plantations held 150 enslaved persons or more. In the American South, only one slaveholder held as many as 1,000 enslaved persons, and just 125 had over 250 enslaved persons. In the Caribbean, Dutch, Guyana, and Brazil, the enslaved death rate was so high and the birth rate so low that they could not sustain their population without importations from Africa. Supply and demand. Salute to the ancestors. Rates of natural decrease ran as high as 5% a year, while the death rate of the U.S. enslaved population was about the same as that of Jamaican enslaved persons. The birth rate was more than 80% higher in the United States. In the United States, enslaved persons were more generations removed from Africa than those in the Caribbean. That shows, right? In the 19th century, the majority of enslaved in the British Caribbean and Brazil were born in Africa. In contrast, by 1850, most U.S. enslaved persons were 3rd, 4th, or 5th generation Americans. Domestic slave trade. The domestic slave trade in the U.S. distributed the African American population throughout the South and a migration that greatly surpassed the Atlantic slave trade to the north. Though Congress outlawed the African slave trade in 1808, excuse me, domestic slave trade flourished, and the enslaved population in the U.S. nearly tripled over the next 50 years. The domestic trade continued into the 1860s and displayed approximately 1.2 million men, women, and children, the vast majority of whom were born in America. To be sold down the river was one of the most dreaded prospects of the enslaved population. Some destinations, particularly the Louisiana sugar plantations, had especially grim reputations, but it was the destruction of family that made the domestic slave trade so terrifying. Profitability. Hold on a second. Profitability. Prices of enslaved persons varied widely over time due to factors including supply and changes in prices of commodities such as cotton. Even considering the relative expense of owning and keeping an enslaved person, slavery was profitable. In order to ensure the profitability of enslavement and to produce maximum return on investment, slaveholders generally supplied only the minimum food and shelter needed for survival and forced their enslaved persons to work from sunrise to sunset. Although young adult men had the highest expected levels of output, young adult women had value over and above their ability to work in the
5
field.
minutes.
Thank you. They were able to have children who by law were also enslaved by the owner of the mother. Therefore, the average price of enslaved females was higher than their male counterparts up to puberty age. Men around the age of 25 were the most valuable. Slaveholding became more concentrated over time, particularly as slavery was abolished in the northern states. The fraction of households owning enslaved persons fell from 36% in 1830 to 25% in 1860. During the Civil War, roughly 180,000 Black men served in the Union Army, and another 29,000 served in the Navy. 3/5 of all Black troops were formerly enslaved. Okay. Now, this is a book called Fugitive Slaves. Y'all can go through this and read it. It distinguishes a million times who the Negro is and who the Indian is. So they knew the difference, but I'm just going to jump down to this part because I'm pressed for time. It says, during all this time, the Southern colonies, especially the Carolinas and Georgia, were also making many complaints in regard to the difficulty they had in recovering the fugitives, both Indian and Negro. So he's correct. There was a slavery here. There were slaves here, but they were shifting from the Indian slavery because it was becoming brutal. They needed those people who already knew the land. They were they had made deals and treaties with some of the people here, so they had to switch it up, right? Not to mention they couldn't work like we work because they weren't used to the same type of climate that we were used to. So we were able to do that, right? Not to say we're better, but that's just what the fuck it is, for what they wanted to accomplish. We were the perfect people for that, right? Both Indian and Negro who were escaping in large numbers into Florida. Okay, so they know the difference, and you can see this all throughout the book. There's even instances where they're paying the Indians like cloths. They're giving them, rewards for catching us. All right. Now I want to jump down to how much time I got left. That's going to determine what I'm going to do next.
2 minutes and 30 seconds.
2 minutes and 30 seconds. Thank you. Okay, so that's a little bit of the slave trade. I could have went in a little bit more, but I want to now point this out. The pre-conquest systems and practices shaping the post-colonial world contrasted with African contributions, okay? So since we're more familiar with our people's history, of course, I can go more in depth about what's happening and what has happened with our people and connect those dots, but we're still going to go over a little bit of this here. I'm gonna do one and then I'm gonna pick up after. So this is ceramics and the Spanish conquest, response to continuity of indigenous pottery technology in central Mexico. Okay. And this, let me see. Okay, the Spanish colonization dramatically interrupted the autonomous development of the ancient and diverse Mesoamerican civilization. Aztecs, Mixtecs, Mayas, and numerous other indigenous peoples were abruptly transformed in the colonized, a foreign, distant, and exploitative state. The colonial rule imposed a new language, new religion, and new legal system, and all this had a profound impact on the natives' culture, on the native cultures. Nevertheless, the Mesoamerican world learned to live with the conquest. The colonization was not only a time of crisis, but also a creative process in which indigenous peoples were looking for new ways to survive, and therefore they reacted and adapted in a variety of manners. Okay, 1 minute. Thank you. In a variety of manners to the changing circumstances. Thus, the colonization resulted in a complex and enduring interaction between the indigenous and the European worlds, and this gave way to a new social systems. Hold on, let me move this up. This gave way to new social systems, technologies, and artistic expressions. In this process, both worlds were active and influenced one another over centuries till today. So just like you see with the slave trade, how I was able to connect us to that from coast to coast, to the DNA, to, well, later we're going to get into some more of those practices. But we're connecting dots between both people. Since their history wasn't completely destroyed and our history wasn't completely destroyed, then we can connect the dots and show who is indigenous to what land. And I yield my time.
All right, thank you. And this would be the IMHOTEP. It is your turn. Let me know when you're ready.
All right, I'm ready. All right, so I just want to pick off kind of where we left off, just saying, proving that America did have a high cultural civilization. I'm gonna kind of run through this quickly because I want to get into the depictions of the people here and the descriptions of the people who lived here. But first, again, we just want to prove that if we're talking about the Egyptians and we're saying the Egyptian was a Negro culture, and the antiquity of America goes back and it's similar to Egypt, so we know if these cultures are similar, that this had to be a Negro culture over here as well. Another thing I did want to say to far as where Brother FACTZ said, he said far as Frank Joseph didn't write these articles. He wrote this book, Encyclopedia of Atlantis, and I don't see you presenting what you said about him, what that had to do with the information he presented. That had nothing to do with the integrity of his information at all. Next thing with these different right here, these articles that's in this book right here, these are from different. Virginia Steen McIntyre wrote this article about this going back 250,000 years, and this is carbon dated. So that science is saying is going back 250,000 years. So every time they start digging, it's getting blacker and it's going back further and further. So again, the mound, we have a mound in St. Louis, is really a pyramid. It's one of the biggest pyramids on the earth. This book right here is called The Mound Builders, the greatest monument of prehistoric man. And it states that the pyramids at St. Louis is one of the biggest pyramids on earth. You see it say the greatest monument of prehistoric man. And this is a cover of a book. And there's a lot of different articles in this book of people talking about that. Right here, it says that the mounds are similar to Egypt. I'm going to read it right. The first paragraph up here, it said, all over the world, primitive men have made earthen mounds over their dead. And Homer, describing the burning of the body of Hector and the building of a great mound over the ashes, describes just what was practiced by our American mound builders. Many of the customs of the mound builders were similar to those of the Greeks, and which are traced through them back to the Egyptians. So they're saying the mound builders are similar, their ways and everything is similar to that of the Greeks, which is traced to the Egyptians. So the mound builders of America were similar to that of the Egyptians. If y'all saying Egypt is a Negro continent, of course, it's in Africa. Where did they come from? Is that America? Because how are these two civilizations so similar? I'm showing y'all that this civilization here in America is rivals Egypt, and really the Egyptians came from North America. But one usually recognizes an Egyptian landscape by seeing in the background a pyramid. Egypt and the pyramid seem to be inseparable. Yet America has many pyramids. Yet America has many pyramids. They are common in Mexico, and some of them rival in size those of Egypt. They are also found in Central and South America, and some of these are faced with stone and have all peculiarities of the Egyptian structures, even to the singular openings to the chambers within. So you see right here, this is the structure right here. And it's also saying right here in St. Louis, Missouri, which is really the real true capital of what we had going on here. It was one of the largest cities in the world, Cahokia, which is today St. Louis, Missouri. One of the largest cities in the world. That's what they're talking about with these articles. It had a very numerous population whose government was very, very well established. Very well established in Cahokia, which is now St. Louis, Missouri. It says it's right there. A.J. Conant said that. Okay, let me move forward right here. And now this is another article or a book, and it's called On the Population of the Timala, or that's Pyramids of the Aborigines of North America, in a letter to Thomas Jefferson from H.H. Brackett. And right here, he said the mounds of Mississippi are more ancient than Mexico. I'm going to read it to you. He said the antiquity of those mounds is certainly very great. He's talking about the ones in Mexico, and he's going to compare them. This is not inferred from the growth of trees, which prove an antiquity of a few centuries, but from the simple reflection, a people of works requiring so much labor must be numerous, and numerous, somewhat advanced in the arts. We might therefore look for works of stone or brick, the traces of which will remain for at least 8 or 10 centuries. The great mound of Cahokia is evidently constructed with as much regularity as any of the Teocalli or pyramid of New Spain, and was doubtless chased with brick or stone and crowned with buildings, but of these no traces remain. Near the mound at St. Louis, there are a few decaying stones, but which they have been casually brought here. The pyramid of Papantla in the northern part of the Intendency of Veracruz, unknown to the first conquerors and discovered a few years ago, was still partly cased with bricks. We might be warranted to consider that the mounds of the Mississippi, more ancient than the Teocalli. That means he's talking about the mounds of Mexico. A fact worthy of notice, although the stages are still plain in some of them, the gradations or steps have disappeared. In the course of time, the rains have washed them away. Some might be startled if I should say that the Mount of Cahokia is as ancient as those of Egypt. So he's saying they're older than the ones of Mexico, but they're as ancient as those of Egypt. The Mexicans possess but imperfect traditions of the construction of Teocalli. Their traditions attribute them to Toltecs or to the Olmecs. So we're talking about right here in St. Louis, Missouri. First of all, they said they're older than Egypt, just as old as Egypt, but they're older than the Aztec and Mayans. And they're compared to the pyramids in Egypt. So this is all a high culture civilization. And this is right here, this book right here, Ancient America, the Identity of the Aboriginals, the Tyrians and Israelites, is going back with saying all these ancient cultures, the Hebrews, the Israels, the Moors, because the Tyrians are the Moors. All these people lived in America. This book is by George Jones, and he's saying that the Aboriginals of ancient America and the Israelites are identical. And he says that, he said the present writer would not yield to any man the firm belief that the Aborigines of North America, but North America only, and the ancient Israelites are identical. He said it. Then he further down here says, all natives may be of Hebrew extract, When we get into languages, you're going to find Hebrew, Egyptian, all these Hebrew, Egyptians, Aztec, Mayan, all these languages, the Phoenician language, all these are connected under one language, Paleo-Hebrew. And they'll tell you in this book, and they also tell you up here in North America, what we call today United States, was an Israelite republic, which is the same thing as the Moor. That's why you have Tyrian in there, but you have to go deeper to find this. And this is just another thing. The Bura Anachi saying up here in North America, the empire stretched from the Hudson Bay to the Gulf with its flank on the western prairies. And they also were the ancestors of the Toltecs and the Mayas. And this is from the Bureau of Ethnology, the Secretary of the Smithsonian. So the empire of the Mississippians stretched. You see it right here. It's saying it was a alluring conjecture, a powerful people superior to the Indians today. He's talking about these people we're calling natives. Once occupied the valley of Ohio and the Appalachian Ranges, their empire stretching from Hudson Bay to the Gulf, which is flanked on the western prairies and the Eastern Ocean. A people with a Confederate government, a chief ruler, a great central capital. And right here, before when we come back in the next round, we're going to get into who these people was. I wanted to prove the point in these first two rounds that America has a high cultural civilization. Is way more information on this. We can talk about way more articles and books that's going to show you it was a high cultural civilization that rivaled even that of what we would call Egypt. And truth be told, this is the real Egypt again. But this man right here says America is a Negro continent. So that high cultural civilization I've been telling you all about, all these pyramids, from the Smithsonian, the empire that stretched to the Gulf, from the Hudson Bay to the western prairies, the Hebrews or the Israelite empire, the pyramids that's more ancient than Mexico, all these, this brother right here, they're not this brother, but this man right here, Carlos Cuervo Marquez, a botanist. He says the Negro type is seen in the most ancient Mexican sculptures. The Negro figure frequently in the most remote traditions of some American pueblos. It is to this race doubtlessly belongs the most ancient skeletons, distinct from the red American race, which have been found in various places from Bolivia to Mexico. It is likely that we repeat, America was a Negro continent. And I know you're saying the word Negro, but we're using that in the terms to talk about anthropology, how we all live again in total system dynamics. So they have made the words. We're using Negro as the word because anybody know that Negro goes back to the Spanish word for black. So at the end of the day, that's what they're using to describe us. So that's why we're using the word Negro. But he's saying America was a Negro continent. When we do come back, we're going to show you different books that's saying the copper colored people who are still here. We're going to show you them senators making mistakes, calling us aboriginals. We're going to show you the depictions of what this man's saying. But first, we wanted to show and drill down that this was a high cultural civilization that and was synonymous with the Egypt over there in Africa. Synonymous with it. Even the pyramids in Mexico, the pyramid of the sun and the moon, is connected with the Orion star system, just like the ones over in Africa. And those people told Plato that they came from the West. That's a fact. They said their lands is past the Isles of Hercules, the Pillars of Hercules, which is past the Mediterranean Sea, which is, and it was an island, and America is an island, Pacific on one side, Atlantic on one side. So we just wanted to show y'all that all these things are connected. This is a Negro continent. So when we come back, we will be showing y'all that. And we will be on descriptions and depictions of the indigenous Americans. We're going to go deeper into it. I land my plane.
All right, that concludes round 2. And we can move into round 3 whenever you're ready, MoFax.
All right, I'm back. Y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I got a lot to cover, so I'm not going to really respond to that because I really don't have an issue unless you're connecting Black people to it, right? I want to see that the Black people in America are connected to it. All right, I already gave you one that I responded to, but I got to finish what I'm going through so that you understand and everybody else understands. More importantly, everybody else understands what's going on here. Let me pull this back up. I want to be shifting twice. So the active role, we're still in the same book, the ceramics and the Spanish conquest. And it's a few things I want to key in here. So we got the people's created a colonization society. Okay, for example, it says, we know that they appropriated Spanish-based writing for their own purposes. Speaking of the natives, they became willing participants in the new religious practice, but interpreted and incorporated the Catholic faith into their own culture in a way that obligated colonizers to interact with the new Etic code. Okay, so they are incorporating these things. Like I mentioned earlier, it wasn't a total obliteration. There were people who were willing to adapt to this new, this colonization, pretty much. They were willing to adapt to it. And then whether it was new, whether they were tricked, whether they were cowards, that's not the point. It did not happen the way that people try to make it seem like it happened when they're trying to make these people Black. So don't get caught up in all of these Europeans are like these gods or some superhumans, they're super saiyans or some shit that came here and just like fucked everybody up. That's not what happened. So they incorporated those things into their culture, and they also influenced each other both ways. Okay, the Spanish, the English, the Portuguese, and in return all of the different indigenous people. But they were able to preserve their culture, and they still do it today because they were the first ones here. That's why they have so much of their shit. They may not broadcast it and commercialize it, but the literature is there if you want to study it. It's insane how much is there. And we're about to get into that. Let me just go over this. Next part, it says the active role of Mesoamerican peoples in the creation of the colonial society has been evidenced in recent historical reconstructions of that period. For example, we know, damn, hold on. I was on the third one. The Mesoamerican people. Oh, shit, I got the same one up here twice. I hope I didn't miss. So I did that one. Wait, this is just. Hold on, y'all. It must be on here. Okay, here we go. They constructed and decorated an impressive amount of churches, convents, and other religious buildings, creating their own regional version of European Renaissance. They maintained pre-conquest forms of organization in colonial times, in particular the Altepetl in central Mexico, in a way that they became basic units of the Spanish colonial administration. As James Lockhart convincingly shows, let me move this up, the indigenous culture was as important as the Spanish culture in determining the form and development of colonial society. So it's not gone. All right, and now we're gonna shoot through this. And remember, I said the pre-conquest systems, which is what we just went over, and practices shaping the post-colonial world, contrasted with African contributions. Right, so there's a difference. There's going to be two lines, okay, and it's going to lead to the indigenous people, and it's going to be a line that leads to us. So far, our shit is not leading back to the indigenous, not with what you presented, and not with what I presented on the indigenous side, right? We're both showing indigenous material, right? You showed a little bit more to me, I'll give you that. But you haven't connected us to that yet. And that's where the issue is lying at. So what I want to do is I'm gonna come back to that, but I want to skip down here and I want to show you another way that we can analyze these pathways, right? Because history, it's in the future. I don't know if you understand that concept, if it's too philosophical for people, because y'all got your own thing going on, but history is technically the future, right? Every single minute, right? We're making history right now, right? History is in the future and you can see it. So here we have the indigenous peoples. I'm going to have to blow this up and I'm going to be doing a lot of moving around, so y'all bear with me. This is the indigenous peoples. These are their policies, treaties, and pay attention to treaties, but policies, treaties, and acts, right? The laws and stuff, legal codes And here, let's go through some of them. Land policies, Indian Removal Act of 1830, land treaties, legal status, treaties, recognizing political entities, later citizenship rights. And this is the place where we cross, because the United States, is dominating land, right? But we cross paths with the indigenous because we were looking for citizenship at a certain point, but our first struggle was rights, period. Our first struggle was becoming actual people, right? They experienced some of the same things, but they had already dealt with their issues before we arrived. When we arrived, we're now the scum of the earth again. We're animals, or less than animals again, right? So legal status, treaties recognizing political entities, later citizenship rights, forced movement, forced relocation, pay attention, government policies, reservation system, assimilation policies, pay close attention to these words, cultural and social recognition, assimilation efforts, boarding schools, autonomy and rights, limited autonomy and reservations, complex legal status. Now look at what we have on the Black side. Check this out. So since there's confusion with who
10 minutes.
The African descendant is, or the Negro, thank you. Black people, enslaved Africans and descendants, land policies, plantation system, legal status, considered property, denied basic human rights until abolition, to the abolition of slavery, forced movement, transatlantic slave trade, and fugitive slave acts. That's why I was showing y'all earlier that when we were trying to run away, they're trying to come and get us because we're their property, and they're using the natives to come find us because they're good with tracking on the land, right? You see how we're walking back to Africa? Government policy, slave code, segregation laws, post-slavery. Cultural and social recognition, denied culture and social recognition, exploited for labor, autonomy rights, no autonomy, denied citizenship and legal rights until civil rights movement. Civil rights movement, that's our people. You see what I'm saying? This ties back to us, and this ties back to the people of the land, all the way down to the terminology used in these legal documents. They're talking about indigenous activities, their struggle with the indigenous people. This is not a struggle with indigenous people. This is a struggle with your property that you brought here and trying to maintain your system of chattel slavery. Let's move on. Okay, let's move on. Okay, I'm not going to go through all of this, but this is just the verses between Native American policies, fugitive slave acts. Y'all can pause this and read it, but I'm pressed for time. Land treaties, slavery laws, reservation system, plantation system, assimilation, enslavement, citizenship, legal rights. This shit is laid out. It's two different paths. It's two different histories. If you talk to the natives, they know more about the land treaties, the reservation systems, the assimilation, the citizenship, the Native American policies. You know what we know more about? Even if you decided to become a Pretendian recently, guess what we still know more about? Fugitive slave acts, slavery laws, plantation system, enslavement, and legal rights. That's what our people know because we were involved in it all the way down to the shit that initiated us to start getting the damn rights so that we can fix these goddamn laws. Let me chill out. So let's keep on moving down. This is the DNA. But before we go to DNA, what's my time?
Your time is 7 minutes and 24 seconds.
7 minutes. Okay, boom. Let's see if I could just air this out in just this last round, right? So previous studies, this is from goodness, I don't even have it up right now, but I can pull it up once I unshare my screen. Previous studies have shown that African Americans in the US typically carry segments of DNA shaped by contributions from people of Europe, Africa, and the Americas, with variation in African and European admixture proportions across individuals and differences in groups across parts of the country. More recent studies that utilize high-density genotype data provide reliable individual ancestry estimates, illustrate the large variability in African and European ancestry proportions at an individual level, and are able to detect low proportions of Native American ancestry. That shouldn't even be a surprise, okay? Some African American participants included in the study were recruited through 23andMe Roots into the Future project, Access October 2013, which aimed to increase understanding of how DNA plays a role in health and wellness, especially for diseases more common in African American community. In the African American community, individuals who self-identified as African American, Black, or African were recruited through 23andMe current membership at events and via other recruitment channels. I just wanted to point that out because they self-identified and then got the DNA test, and that shit lined up as well. So they already know who the fuck they are. There was no trick with the DNA, and they only picked the people who self-identified. So why don't you self-identify and take a damn DNA test? In the present work, we do not include individuals who self-report as having multiple identities because this represents only a small fraction of individuals in our data set. Low rates of reporting as multiracial or multi-ethnic is in line with previous studies. An analysis of the 2000 US Census shows that 95% of Blacks and 97% of whites acknowledge only a single identity. Future studies, including multiracial individuals, might further illuminate patterns of genetic ancestry and the complex relationship with self-identity. And then we're going to take a look at this. Y'all can pause the screen and look at this later. This is the results of the data that was accumulated, right? And it has all the states and all of the people who, has all the states and all of the people who participated in these results. So the highest we have, or the lowest we have, is in West Virginia, 64% of African, right? And then the highest we have, I think here is I think it's 81 for Georgia, and 80, is it? Let's see, this is the average, 83, South Carolina, right? And again, this makes sense because there's a lot of plantations and ports in that area, and a lot of our families do trace back to that area. So you see how we're still walking back. You can walk your ass all the way back from today back to Africa because of human development of keeping records. Okay, let's shoot down a little bit more. No, I gotta unshare. Can you tell me my time, please? So I can
Yes, your time is 3 minutes and 40 seconds.
Perfect. 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Let's go to one of these windows real quick. Okay, we got Rhode Island. Oh, damn, I got a whole shitload of stuff open. We're gonna, let me get the name of this real quick. Yeah, can you pause my time real quick while I have way too many windows open, but I'm gonna pull it up. Hold on.
Yep, I've already paused it. Anytime I see you guys searching, I'll pause it.
Okay, that works. Okay. Damn, I forgot to close. My bad, y'all. I forgot to close my you know how it gets when you're researching, you're supposed to close all of the other windows and simplify everything. I left them open. So let me get this, and then I'm going to put it in its own window. Hold on. Bear with me. So where's Lindsay? It is called not the fugitives. Okay, here we go. Okay, this is one of them. Okay, let me go back to this window. This over here. And I'm just going to move the other one over that I'm going to next so that we don't have to pause it again. Let me just get this out the way right now. Okay. This has to be here because I know I sent it to this side. Maybe it's. Okay, here it is. Let's send this to another window. And damn, I gotta look at which one it is. Bear with me, y'all. I'm almost there. I gotta make sure I do this right. 10.15, 15, 9, 7, 8, 3, 9, 10.15. 7831. All right, boom. Now I don't have to rotate back. Okay, you can go ahead and resume my time as soon as you see it pop up on the screen. Go back to the stream. All right, we on the way. We on the way. Window. Okay, I gotta close that and open it back up. African English. Come on. Window. And let's just see. Ah, it's not popping up. What the fuck? Hold on. Damn. I don't know why the hell it's just not showing up. Let me try it this way. Oh, okay. Here we go. All right. You can resume as soon as I'm on the screen. Mapping in the Handbook of North American Indians began in 1978 and was based on the map by anthropologist Harold E. Driver, which changed with changes proposed by editors and chapter authors in various volumes. The maps may cover different time periods. While in the original source, the maps were labeled key to tribal territories and later key to chapter coverage, the labels have been removed here for reprinting. Okay. So yeah, the Handbook of North American Indians is where this is coming from. The references. But what I want to show here before I get into our language that we have today in our languages that we're connected to by just our natural innate habits, because we're not that, this stuff didn't happen that long ago. I don't know why we're acting like this was like 2,000, 3,000 years ago. This shit recently happened, so we shouldn't be too far disconnected. But this is the map of languages and major dialects in the Arctic culture area. I just want y'all to check out how many different languages these are. I don't even know how to pronounce these words. Kira quit. Sorry, y'all. My dog tripping. So just check these out. I'm sure the natives, y'all gonna be familiar with this. We're gonna be looking at it like, what the fuck? I want to experience that with my Black people, with my African descendant family. We all need to look at these things and just like, what the fuck, right? What is this? What are we even looking at? What are these languages? How do you begin to explain this? Where is this in our tongue? If you are familiar with any of these, which, because we do research, so yes, 1 or 2 or 3 may pop up and you're like, oh yeah, I know what that is. But how are you connected with it? Can you trace this back to your tongue? Do you have some habits that you had from speaking any of these languages? This is the, hold on, let's go to a different one. This is the Northwest Coast. When you see these, if you heard of any of these, is this like stuck in your tongue somehow? Are you connected to this in some type of way? If you're not connected to this,
One minute.
thank you. If you're not connected to this in any type of way, then I don't know what we're talking about us being here. We should be able to explain something with all of these languages. We're talking about thousands of languages. If you go into this book and get the full, because I just pulled out the maps, if you get the full version of it, it's talking about thousands of languages. These people were over here stomping all over the place. And they can prove the migration through the morphology of the languages and influence through back migrations throughout the Americas with these people. This shit is not familiar to us. Let me stop sharing this. And I want to give an example. Let me go back over here. What's my time?
You have 10 seconds left.
10 seconds. Oh, never mind. I'm going to yield it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, IMHOTEP the Great, you are up for this last round. And just to reiterate, the same respect goes to you. If you need to find a slide or something, let me know and I'll pause it.
All right, thank you. I appreciate you. I'm trying to share it, right? Share it.
Sounds like your mic is a little messed up.
Better now.
No, it sounds about the same. I don't know, Mofax, can you hear? Sounds good.
No, it's like robotic.
Yeah.
What about now?
There's a distortion. It sounds the same as what happened last time. So however you fixed it before, just try that again. Well, you got to reshare it. It disappeared when I clicked on it.
Thank y'all for all your patience, for waiting while we get everything together. It's a great debate, a lot of information out there, so be patient and we're going to get it going.
I'm sorry, y'all. I'm just trying to share my web page, and it's not. Every time I hit present, it's not showing me. Give me a few more moments.
All right, and whatever you did earlier to fix your audio, do that again, because when you spoke, we still heard the static or the kickback on the mic.
Can y'all hear me now?
Yes, we can hear
Yep,
you.
that's better.
You see my screen?
Yep.
Do y'all see the picture on here?
Yes. This is the Indian races.
All right, thank you. Yep. All right, so cool. So the first thing I wanted to say, sorry about that, everybody. The first thing I wanted to say is, you said you can walk to Africa because we're on the coast. Well, if you can walk to Africa, why you ain't walked back, or why they ain't walked back to come get you? The thing of it is, you keep saying all these chiefs and kings and all this stuff. Wouldn't they be looking for their people from Africa? Because the same things that this colonization that's supposed to happen in Africa, all those things went over in America. Another thing is this picture that be floating around TikTok and all throughout social media, this is a real picture right here. This is a real book. So this book is called, again, The Indian Races of North and South America. And you see right here, it says Cortez and Moctezuma. Why would they be depicting all these books, the Indians, as dark-skinned people? They're not the natives of today. We know that they're not these copper-colored people who they say were here. So I just want to show you all that first. This is the first depiction we want to show you. That's why we showed you the empire. So we already know this was a high-class civilization, high-intelligent, high-culture civilization. But now we're getting the depictions of these people. So this is one source right here that they wrote, and they depict these people, Moctezuma, as a dark-skinned person. You see the Europeans, they could depict them the right way. So why would they then change the depiction of the indigenous people, or who we call the Indians of Mexico? This particular picture. That doesn't make sense. All right, now we're gonna get into the definition of Aboriginal. Aboriginal is someone who's been somewhere from existing in a land from the earliest times or from before the arrival of colonists. What I told you in the beginning, what we're going through was total system dynamic. First, it was European imperialism, where imperialism means a nation or a country or a continent or people coming out their place and going to take over someone else's lands. Europe did that. They left Europe and they came to America and took over these lands in America. That was the colonists. So that was colonization of the Aboriginals. The Aboriginals had existed from the beginning of time, like the previous section showed us. The civilization had been here up to 250,000 years. Also, the same thing with the word indigenous. Indian is the status, just really meaning indigenous. When you say we're Indian, we're just saying we're indigenous to this land. That's your status. You're an indigenous person of the Americas. The Africans are indigenous to Africa. Indigenous of people inhabited or existing in the land from the earliest of time or before the arrival of colonists. Same things with Aboriginal. Or number one of it is originating or occurring naturally in a particular place. Again, we are the natural of America. That's why they're depicting us like that. 1828 definition of America. American, a native of America, originally applied to the Aboriginals. Again, the people who existed from the earliest of times. So America was originally applied to the Aboriginals. American, of course, that's the name of the continent. They'll be American. Found here by Europeans, but now applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America. Again, a native of America, originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper-colored races. Copper-colored races. and everything I showed y'all previously. They said the Mongolians, those are not the people who built all this stuff. Every book you read on this topic is going to say the people who's currently calling themselves Indians, the people who got the casinos, all this stuff, they're not the people who built all these structures, this high-class, world-class civilization that they say the greatest monuments man has built. It was the copper-colored races that they found here. So what is the color of copper? Different shades of brown. You got from different lighter browns all the way to darker browns. From lighter browns to darker browns. Anybody in America, they say all the aboriginals, all the indigenous, or all the black people in America come outside, especially black Americans. We have scaled all the way from light brown all the way to dark brown. Damn near what they would say black. That's the reason they call us copper colored. We're different shades of brown. To prove that, even in today's time, you can go look at anything in our culture, an urban poster of hairstyles with our beautiful queens on there, and they'll show you that they're copper colored, different shades of brown. Do you see this? This is all different shades of brown. Different, dark brown, lighter browns, lighter browns. Same thing with our men. We are different shades of brown. Different shades of brown. We're not black. So a black person doesn't exist. We're brown. Black is the caste system that they put us in when they came in. And they also put the Indians under the caste system as black as well. Let's be clear about that. They put the Indians under the caste system of black as well. So, and Negro. So they pushed the Indians to those titles of black and Negro to take away their indigenous titles so they wouldn't be indigenous to the land. They're telling you you're from Africa because now they got your land and all your resources. But we know it's not, again, we know it can't be the people who saying they're the Indians today because they're not copper colored. They don't go from different shades of brown. Again, this is copper. And let's look at the definition, the copper colored people. Y'all, it got to be cognitive dissonance if y'all don't understand that. The copper colored races. This is the color of copper. Go look in the mirror. Go look in the mirror, Mo. Copper colored. They were here. We love, they taught us all about Africa. You said something earlier. The European definitely didn't say we're from Africa. What do they teach in the public school system? They teach you from Africa. Every February, they're going to teach you from Africa. What did you talk about? The European don't teach us that. My grandma said we were African American. She said she was American. What are you talking about? Our family telling us that we're American. Our family is telling us that we're indigenous. Nobody's family is telling them that I know of, telling them that they're really from Africa and what tribes they're from. Everybody family I know is saying they're even Cherokee, Choctaw, Blackfoot, stuff of that nature. Or that's what's in the South, West, East of the United States of America. So let's go there. We're going to hear what this senator has to say real quick about this, because the senator, they made this man apologize for saying the word Aboriginals. Why would this man have to apologize for saying Aboriginal? If the Black Americans, he made a mistake and called Black Americans Aboriginal, and they made him apologize. Again, why would he have to apologize? Let's hear it.
This interview, I was quite surprised to see you use the word Aborigines.
He said using the word Aboriginals.
Brother, hold on. You're gonna have to turn that up because we can't hear it. So restart it and then see if you can raise the volume.
Let's see. Yeah, y'all can't hear that low. All right, but anyway, somebody when y'all get a chance, because I want to get on my point. Y'all can't hear it. Y'all go watch this video. It's on my page. Senator refers to African Americans as Aboriginal Americans. They made him get on here and apologize.
Go ahead and play it, and
though,
then I guess everybody turn your volume up if you can't hear it. No, there's no sound at all. Hey, okay,
Yeah,
so
there's no sound at all.
pause this time. This is what you do, right? Stop sharing it and then do it again. You want to share it again, but then you want to see an option where it says it's going to tell you that use audio.
Okay.
It's going to say share audio as well.
It says share audio. It didn't pop up for me.
Try to play it again. We can hear it a little bit, so just go ahead and play it, and I guess y'all turn y'all volumes up as high as you can, and if you need to, just go look it up yourself.
My purpose here today is to say that I'm very sorry. And I apologize to anyone who's hurt by my comment. I've made very, very clear I don't know where that comment comes from.
Well, from your subconscious.
Well, I guess. I mean, it's not even a normal thing anyone would say, even if you meant something in a negative fashion. I don't know if you would pull that out. But for me personally,
So he apologized and he said you can't just close down camp because you give them them an unfortunate bit of ammunition. They know we're the indigenous people. In their secret societies, in their secret circles, they know we're the indigenous people. So in their circle, they're calling us aboriginals. They're calling us indigenous aboriginals. That's why he got up there and said this. And the man said, he said, I don't know why that came into my mind. The interviewer said, he said, well, from your subconscious, because subconsciously they know we're the aboriginals. He said we can't just close down shop because we give them an unfortunate bit of ammunition. What will be ammunition? The ammunition is that us knowing we're indigenous to America, that north, south, east, and west, all this is our continent. That's why they made him get apologized, because he messed up. Yeah, so basically I'm gonna stop it right there. I don't know if y'all could hear it or not, but again, Senator in Alabama probe
5 minutes.
called blacks Aborigines. So with that, he called us the Aborigines. Again, we got pictures and depictions of real authors writing, showing that us as the Aborigines, as dark melanated people, so many depictions of this. The senator called us Aboriginals while he was talking to African Americans. They made him go apologize. Whoever in the background made him get on TV and apologize. Even the interviewer told him, hey, it's coming from your subconscious. From your subconscious that you know that. So again, we're going to get right here. This article says the use of the term Negro and Black to include persons of Native ancestry in Anglo-North America. It says, the tendency to create a two-caste society often clash with people of the reality of a territory which included many different types of people, all colors, and different degrees of intermixture of European, American, African, and Asian. Native American people, whether of unmixed ancestry or mixed with other stock, were at times affected by the tendency to create a purely white-black social system, especially when living away from a reservation or the ancestral homeland. It goes to say, among the regrettable practices which have resulted in disparagement of the Indians, one prime abuse is the unjustifiable and scandalous practice of calling them Negroes. Perhaps by doing so, the attempt was no other than to induce in them the belief by their origins they have been destined to be slaves of the whites. So again, even the Indians they was enslaving, and they were calling the Indians Negroes. So these people right here, they were calling Negroes. So when he calling you Aboriginals, he was calling the African Americans, who also, we know they call us Negroes. We call each other Negro, that Negro. All this is one and the same. So this article is saying they were calling the people, even in South America, they were calling them the indigenous or Indian people, Negroes. And it's a whole article that tell you how they were labeling the Indians as Negroes. Now we're going to hop into this book real quick, Allegory of the Continent. Just say an allegory is something that tells a story or a hidden meaning of something. So in these books, Allegory of the Continents, it tells you the different allegories of the world, north, south, east, and west. This book is made by the North American Aboriginal Society. And shout out to Karimio. This is where I first ever seen this book from. All right, so it tells you what an allegory is, and this is going to show the different nations of the world in the churches. This one is a church in Germany. And each one of the people represent a continent. Like this would be America and Africa. This would be Europe. And this will be Asia. Now, remember, Asia does also mean Turkey and stuff, too. And you're going to know which continent they're talking about because you're going to see the animals with them. Like this, another church. I'm going to go down to one and try to find the one I'm looking for because I know time is ticking down. If you could pause it real quick, so I can just show y'all this last picture.
Okay.
I think I meant value, the right value. I might be in the wrong. Because I know a lot of people gonna be like, well, that doesn't mean that because the art could be anything. Well, on some of these good things in some of these churches and all these places in Europe that they did depict the four nations of the world, they actually put on there which ones they were, like Africa, America, Asia, and Europe. What is that? It's the right value. It might not be. It might not be the one. I just want to show y'all that one. Yep, it's this one. Because it's this one right here. My bad. All of them show up, but I want to go to the ones that show you the names on it because y'all gonna say that ain't real. So you're gonna have to explain that. Why is they depicting the Americans in these places as Aboriginal people? Because you said you want to get it connected. So we're gonna connect it for you here. This the one right here. So let's go here. Again, this book shows the allegories of the continents. This is in a castle in Germany. It's in a castle in Germany. I can't get to Europe. I'm sure y'all ain't go to Europe and put it in there, but somebody put this in here. You see this, the artwork at the top of the castle. And right there, closer in on the artwork.
1 minute.
Each of them. It got the Europe right there, Europa. It has America right here. It got Africa in the corner, and the other corner is destroyed, so it don't have Asia in this one. This is Africa. This is how they depicted Africa. That's how they got y'all confused, because they have y'all, the Africans are dark melanated people too. But just like the Africa is a Negroid continent, so is America. Explain why they got this in there. America. America. Copper-colored people. So when we go back, and he's saying, he made it say Aboriginal. We go back. Copper-colored people.
1 second.
Copper-colored. America. And that's in the church.
Time is up. So the time is up. Thank you. If we can move into Q&A with you all. Type the questions down in the chat. Remember, when you type the questions down, put who the question is for, so that there will be no confusion. And I'm going to try to bounce between the chats.
IMHOTEP, until she gets a question, we can ask questions, because I do have a few for you before we close
I mean, you
out.
can go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to know if you were familiar with AAVE at all.
African American Vernacular English.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And do you have you seen any examples of it, or you've only heard people just use that term?
The examples will be every day in our communities, from what I understand AAV is.
Okay, so you do know why they call it African American Vernacular English, right?
Well, that's what they call it, African American. I would call it IAVE, Indigenous American Vernacular English.
Okay, all right. Well, so you know the same things occur within our language, within the language we're using now, that occurs in African languages, right? You do know that's what they're connecting it to.
And you do understand that the Americans was the first people who went across the world and navigated the seas, and the colonies of North Africa and throughout, well, even what they find over the Middle East and a lot of Europe, we first civilized them and gave them language.
Okay, well, that's going to be a stretch to go through, but there are linguists. Okay, so we had European linguists, and they were assuming that the languages, the way we spoke our language, right? You can look up Lorenzo Dow. The Europeans who came before him said that we were like remedial. We were slow, and we couldn't, adapt to being civilized and shit, so we couldn't speak properly. But when a Black person got involved in it, they were able to actually attach it back the way that we speak. When we just say y'all eat, instead of saying did y'all eat, y'all eat, you ready to go? Like, that is done in the African languages. So it wasn't that we weren't civilized, and it wasn't the other theory that they came up with, that we adopted it from being influenced by indigenous languages, because they checked all of the indigenous types of nuances with their development of their language and how it morphs over time when trying to speak English, and they couldn't find no traces of it. We had two different habits. Ours links back to the habits that Africans have, and the indigenous people, how they spoke English, links back to their own personal way, how they developed their adaptation to English. But that's my only question. That's what I wanted to ask. Well, I got one more question, but I can wait. If you got a question, Hoodoo.
Yes, I have one for IMHOTEP Great. It says, explain in summary how your presentation connected Black people to indigeneity in America. I hope I said that right.
It connected them because first we show high culture civilization. A lot of people who are in the community, just conscious community, period, they understand that we know Egypt is a melanated culture. It was built by melanated people. At the end of the day, when we get into the records of Egypt, it said they came from the West. So showing that the high culture civilization in the West, from Mexico and all throughout North America, here in the United States, that is more pyramids. That's the part of my presentation. In the Americas than even in Egypt, and there's a high culture civilization, then going to show the depictions of the copper colored people as the definition. What they said, the definition of being indigenous is or American is copper colored. That connects the depictions of the people. Then you have the high culture civilization.
Okay, and before I do the next question, can you guys, those of you asking questions, you have to put who you're talking to so that we know. Because there's a lot for IMHOTEP. I think there's some for Mo, but I don't. Here we go. Here's one. Can Mo FACTZ explain to the chat how Okay. This one, let's put real questions up there.
Trolling and shit.
IMHOTEP, do you have any questions for Mo while I go through these other questions? I don't want to just bombard you with questions.
Not right now at this time.
Okay. Let me see.
I have a statement for him though.
Go ahead. You can do it.
I just feel like a lot of our brothers and sisters, y'all just gonna have to go deeper. I think a lot of people, you know, they taught us we was from Africa, so people read on Africa and fell in love with Africa, as you should. Africa is another melanated continent, but you're gonna have to go deeper in the records. A lot of people have studied the antiquity of Africa because, again, the public school system told us we was from Africa, and we found the history there. But how do you connect yourself then to Africa, to Egypt, and all these pyramids? Then you got to go deeper and study the antiquity of America to really have a world view of world history. You got to study America and get deep in the studies of America. Then you will find it there.
Well, we're connected to Egypt through, you know, a few people's bloodlines, but that was a mixed multitude. And I mean, we're dealing with West Africa primarily for the people who are in America. Now, migrations and everything and intermingling could have happened thousands of years before that, because dealing with the pyramids, that's a long time ago when that occurred. So yeah, there's migrations in and out and all types of mixing, even all the way into Asia and then back into Africa, right? But specifically speaking about where we came from recently, everything leads back to West Africa. It's not even North Africa or West Asia, dealing with the Moors and the Israelites and the Egyptians. We're not even.
What country in West Africa? Not to
West Africa.
Yeah, what kingdoms in West Africa did they get all these people from enough to populate North, Central, South America, and the Caribbean islands? That's hundreds of millions of people.
That's not how they populated. So what I was reading for you earlier was explaining how the supply and demand required more people to be shipped to South America. But in the North, they had a more sustained method. So even when it was being abolished, though they had like a small percentage that arrived there, they had they were able to use breeding. So their numbers increased because they were able to sustain it. They were working people hard, right? But they also knew from looking at the failures of the South that they need to, you know, pull back a little bit and focus on having I don't even want to say it like this, but their property. They're looking at us as property, and they like, yo, we got to take care of this shit, right? We need to keep reproducing it, especially when slavery is being abolished. That's what they sought after, right? They're looking for reproduction at that point. So the numbers that are increasing is not from us being shipped over here.
The slave trade was in America.
Our increase in America was from breeding. It wasn't from the slave trade.
Well, how was it from breeding? That wouldn't make sense from it being from breeding, and these people was being enslaved going all through. You said yourself all this brutal stuff. So how was they populating on enough up into, because even in the 1900s, it was a large population of Negroes on this continent. So how through all this tumultuous things did these people reach this great population? They were being killed, murdered, and hunted down. The conditions on the plantation were so horrible. That's not making sense.
Yeah, it was horrible. I'm saying that people caught on to how detrimental it was for their plan, even in the South. In the South, they knew I think that was one of the first places where people were getting paid at, where they was like trying to treat, they still violated, but they still were trying to focus on making their money. It doesn't mean that they're good people and they didn't do anything evil. People started trying to perfect the system of chattel slavery and breeding farms and changing the work conditions. Those are things that they incorporated so that they can keep their shit going. They still did what they did, but it wasn't just from shipping slaves over here. And y'all know that because y'all always point out that most of the slaves were in Brazil and not North America. So yeah, exactly. Where did we come from? We came from the breeding.
Here's another question for IMHOTEP. At what point in history did Egypt reestablish itself in Africa?
That sounds like backwater.
You said at what point in Egypt reestablished itself? Was Egypt established in Africa?
At what point in history did Egypt reestablish itself in Africa?
Are you talking about the Arab Republic of Egypt, the current Egypt today? Because that is the 1500s that came into 15 to 1600. They made the Arab Republic of Egypt, but the Arabs conquered Egypt back in like 800, 900 BC. When they first came in, that's the modern Egypt today. But the real true Egypt, or the true Atlantis, because again, the Egyptians, the custodians of the Egyptian culture, and you can find this in the Emerald Tablets in the Book of Thoth, that tells you that they came from the West. When they describe the city that they came from, it's just like the city Teotihuacan in Mexico. It's the same thing, how it was a city in the middle of a lake with a whole bunch of canals and everything. It's described to the T. When you go research the history of this city in Mexico, that's the same city. So the real Atlantis is Egypt. So they talking about when it was established over here or over there, because the real Egypt had been since the beginning of time over here. The big Egypt, you can look at that over there as a kingdom.
Okay, I got one more question. Hoodoo, if you don't mind, and then you can finish.
Okay, sure.
This is actually technically the last thing I was about to show, but I would have had to ask this question anyway, just to see what your opinion is on it. It's just, I don't know.
And Mo, what would you? I know you did say this too. You said that it was an indigenous slave trade, correct?
Correct. Yeah, it was. Yeah, that we were replacing that one. That's why they got us. We're replacing that one. I'm not going to actually read this, but I'm going to just gloss over it. And these are. This is found in Puerto Rico. Right, discovery of cave art in the depths of Puerto Rican caves is prompting a reevaluation of the island's history, challenging established timelines and suggesting a connection to Africa. So my question is, when you see stuff like this, right? And this is recent. This isn't something that was like said a long time ago. This is stuff that they're discovering now, because Europeans said when they first got here, they said that nobody was even inhabiting this land. So they disrespected the Africans that were there, and they disrespected the and I've heard you say that you don't even disagree with the African slave trade or whatever. So these Africans were there, you can see by what they drew. And this is actually debunking what the Europeans said for the indigenous and the Africans. Because the Europeans said that people were only there just a few hundred years before they arrived. And this cave art takes it back thousands, over 1,000 years before the European arises. And it also lines up with the first arrival in the 1500s of African slaves, and they don't have lions on the island of Puerto Rico. So I just wanted to know what you thought about that.
There's reports of all different type of animals being here in the Americas prior to the European came. And when you see a lot of depictions even of America, they were showing lions, and we do have different type of bobcat, cougars. Even when you talk about a panther, when they talk about the movie Black Panther, a panther is indigenous to the Americas. So with that, through colonization, they killed all type of animals and stuff in this thing. It's 10 times worse. It's so many animals. You can really go look up extinct animals of America since just the time of Europeans have came over here. So they could, thousands of years ago, it was lions and different animals in the Americas. They depict that here, just like it was mammoths and lions here.
They carbon dated it. It was from 1500 CE.
Again, even before the European, it was different animals here. Even before the European got here, that's not here no more. That don't exist, because again, colonialism and capitalism, and them taking no particular resources or even the animals and killing them, murdering them, and trading them throughout the worldwide market. They have found a new source to be able to become rich off of.
Okay. Well, hey, to refute that, all you have to do is look at the same cave art, look up the Puerto Rican caves where they have the lion art at, and just show before the African arrives in 1500, which is what their claim is, show the lines drawn there with the same mane. Yeah, I know about the lines that were here, but they don't look like the African line. That they drew African lines, and then they also matched it to the depictions of what they drew in Africa. So it's like the same type of drawing. So if you can show that before, that'll be crazy. That the natives before the African arrives drew lines with the manes that look exactly like the ones in Africa, and then I'll concede to it. But
The point of it is, on every continent, it's a indigenous melanated group of people who are indigenous to the land, been there. This out of Africa stuff doesn't work with the Australian Aboriginals, and it doesn't work with the Aboriginals in Southeast Asia as well either. It only works on some people. It had worked on a lot of us, but a lot of people who do the research who not scared to go through the next door and understand the antiquity of America, that is just a little more sinister what they did to all of us. They'll find that out though, you know. So at the end of the day, you know, it is what it is though, you know. We from America, every continent has an indigenous melanated population, and it just so happened our particular culture that we come from is a high class civilization that was right here on the Mississippi Valley, and we went all around the world and civilized the world, and we were connected to the same people in Mexico. Right in Mexico, on the Gulf of Mexico, there was all one civilization. Even with the Caribbean islands, the European cut this all up. And as many books say that. So what do we say about all the people who talk about all this high class situation? What do we talk about the people who even says it was Negroes and the copper colored people? What do we say about these writers who say that?
Okay. Hey, as long as they in the field and they credible, you know, you gotta
what I mean, like when I show you that, when we show you a picture, say the Indian races of North America, and these are showing melanated people, or you go in the temples of Mexico and you see in the temples of Mexico, these are clearly melanated Negro people. They're not the people they're calling indigenous today. I mean, if the people depicted themselves as as dark skinned, melanated, copper colored people, and we know this continent was colonized, like, I don't know what else to show y'all. That's what I'm saying. It's not really a debate. It's just presenting information, because it is what it is, though. At the end of the day, we all in the United States, we're going to have to build regardless. But at the same time, we're from America. All facts.
That's the, I mean, we are Americans, but what was I about to ask you? Okay, so the title of the debate is "Are Black people in the America indigenous? Black people in America indigenous to America?" So with what you just said, if you can show that we are those people, us today here in 2023, if you can show that we are those people, then cool. But right now, those would just be, like you said, melanated people, copper colored people, people who are dark, and that's it. I don't know what happened.
Where are these people? Where are they at? I'm gonna let you go. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I don't know what state you're from, and I mean this with all due respect. I don't know where you're from or what you've heard, but maybe I've just grew up around more natives and seen more pictures of natives, because I'm from Maryland, Virginia, DC, North Carolina. You know, I've been in those areas, and I guess I've seen them. My kids, some of them are from Oklahoma, so I know, you know, those people. I've seen them there. They're dark, they're light, they're in between. Like, they have the same, damn near the same colors we have. You know, there's some of them that are darker than us. So I don't know why that's new to you. We have to connect us to those people. It can't just be dark. That's not going to work, because I've seen dark Indians, especially when you're dealing with history. They were darker back then, but they were
I can call my dad's wife right now in Mississippi.
Your mic is messing up again. IMHOTEP.
I can call my dad's wife right now in Mississippi, and she on her walk right in the living room. It's a big picture of her grandmother, who's a sheriff.
Hold on, you gotta fix it. We want to hear you. You gotta fix the mic.
Yeah, your mic is messing up.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Boom, there you go.
All right, I can call my father right now, and he's in Mississippi, and his wife, it's a big picture of her grandmother, who's a full-blown Cherokee Indian, and she's a Negro lady. Full-blown Cherokee Indian. My great-grandfather from Alabama is a Cherokee Indian, and my grandma has a picture of him. She always say that her dad's an Indian, a Cherokee Indian, full-blooded. I always look at her photo album. I see this man as a kid because they told me we were from Africa. It didn't relate till you get into the history, how it go. Wow, that just because they're saying you're from Africa is a reason they're telling you that, so they can get the land and everything. It doesn't negate the fact that you still have Negroid melanated people who are saying they're indigenous. You still have Black Indians today. So how do you explain that all these tribes of people, even in Poverty Point, Louisiana, they're saying they're indigenous to America? And even Europeans will say, because I have books on that too, it says Poverty Point, Louisiana is one of the oldest civilizations on earth.
Damn.
How do you explain all the Egyptian artifacts, all this stuff over here?
Well, that's a lot of questions. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna get back to it, but I want to make sure Hoodoo gives the people a chance to ask their questions too. But I'm gonna answer.
And guys, I'm looking back towards the chat. Some of these questions have already been answered, you guys, so I'm trying not to repeat.
Okay.
Yeah, there's most of them are repeated. And I'm scrolling back up.
Yeah, if it's all the same question, then we good. So
Yeah.
I can answer. So basically, I can, which I will show later once I figure out all of things that's going on in my family, and my son, and one of my daughters as well, or whatever. And I'll show you. They clearly have native blood, but it's not in their DNA test. So that's not even I don't know what type of argument that is, that somebody, because and they're on rolls. That's what, mind you, that they're on the roll. So they're doing this. Okay, that's 10%, that's 20%, that's 30%, that's 100%, and they've done that all the way to 2023, where one of my kids are on the roll. Right? He doesn't have any DNA. So how the fuck is he on there? You see what I'm saying? That doesn't mean anything. Somebody can be on a roll and not have that. So what is connecting us to Africa, even though we know that people mixed, especially coming out of Oklahoma or Virginia or like I like to use Mississippi and stuff like that, you're going to find them in your families, right? But you won't always find them in your DNA. And if it's in there, it's going to be in a small percentage because the shit did happen. But even they had European and African DNA because we're also exchanging it as well. It doesn't just go one way. But for you to say that, and that's me just telling the reality of it, for you to say that they're just from America, period, it shouldn't be touching Africa at all. Somebody else's DNA should show like it got a little bit of African in it because you mixed a little bit with the African, right? You're not the African. Someone else is supposed to have the African DNA, but our people are predominantly from West Africa. That's where our DNA traces back to. So somebody in your family can be a full-blown Indian. I don't know if you've been on the lives when we're having those conversations. I try to tell people I've seen it before. It's in my family and my family through marriage. It's there. I've seen it. But we're dealing with science now. We're dealing with the reality of things, just like the Negroid, the indigenous word, and the guy that you mentioned earlier, if you go read the article, he stated that he didn't know why. Remember, and the guy said it was your subconscious, right? Or your subconscious. When he was he attempted to explain why he had used the word, did he say aboriginal or aborigine, whatever term he used?
Yeah, aboriginal.
Right. But that's not the full context of this. And this is a bad habit that I see that you guys have, right? And I'm saying this with respect. You got to feel me on this, because I really want you to be accurate with your information so that we can make this.
No, we ain't gonna do that because
brother, hold on. I'm about to show you.
I'm not because at the end of the day,
I'm going to show you.
You'll have your chance to respond.
I'm going to show it to you. I'm not sitting here doing nothing disrespectful. I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. I'm just like, I could have just talked, but I didn't. I'm trying to go back to your article that you just showed so I can show you the full context. I'm not about to sit here and play you. I can talk shit some other time, but we're trying to teach. So this is not it's not a joking mood. I'm gonna make some jokes later, but I'm dead serious about this shit. you got the context of what he was talking about completely wrong. So, where's this shit at? I just opened it. Why are they not showing my other PowerPoint? Yeah, it keeps making my shit disappear off there. Bear with me, y'all. I got this is very important because I glossed over it. Entire screen, new tab. Forget it. I'll just show the window. Forget it. Y'all see this, right?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so, Alabama senator unsure why he called blacks Aborigines. As a Republican state senator who secretly recorded conversations for the FBI testified Thursday that he couldn't explain why he called black customers of a casino Aborigines. Alabama's Democrat leader called for his resignation, and the Republican Party chairman defended his reputation. I don't use that term normally. I don't know where it even came from that day. Senator Scott Beason of Gardendale testified Thursday in federal court, where he is a key prosecution in the state house corruption case. Down here, he says, "That's y'all Indians." One Republican said, "They're Aborigines, but they're not Indians," Beason replied. Bobby Siegel, attorney for indicted Victory Land Casino owner Milton McGregor, asked Beason if he was showing disdain. "I don't know what I meant at the time." He's apologizing for calling a place that's predominantly black people Aborigines. And you are making it seem like he was calling them, apologizing for, like he's proven that they're Aboriginals. Like, I'm sorry for calling you something else. No, he apologized for calling them Aborigines because they're not. So that's the context of it. He's apologizing for doing something wrong. And I'm done.
And IMHOTEP, you have your, would you like to respond? You have a chance to respond.
Yes, I would. Now, Mo, you just put up the article and you read it yourself. He's apologizing because he called them Aboriginal. He don't supposed to let that slip. Now, why would that just come out his mind and just say, "Oh, Aboriginal," then go apologize? Nobody who was offended that he called them Aboriginals. Then we have to go see which black person was offended that he called them Aboriginal. No, when they seen that he called them Aboriginal, whoever is in the background, trust me, in their corners, they know what it is. They said get up there and fix it. He would have no reason to apologize that something wouldn't have been offensive to the black community. What black person would have got mad? They wouldn't. Most black people got so much going on trying to survive that wouldn't even offend it. He was in Montgomery, Alabama, one of the blackest cities in America, and he said the word Aboriginal. It came from it, like the man on the interview said, it comes from your subconscious mind. So it's not out of the context I took it. I took it in the context of what it is, that we live in a society that hides truth. And a lot of times that truth will slip through sometimes, because what's done in the dark gonna come to light. So it slipped through. So he apologized because he knew he had messed up. And they don't ever want that secret to get out, ever at all. They don't ever want it, but it's too late. It's already out. They don't want that to get out, that they have lied and it's more sinister than what people think that it is that they have done. They conquered you on your own homeland. So he got up there, he called us Aboriginals. And then when you relate that again, this debate was about our black people indigenous to the Americas. Again, we showing you the depictions there. It got to be cognitive. My opinion is cognitive dissonance. I understand everybody love Africa. Africa is a beautiful place. Very beautiful place with beautiful people. But the point still remains. You have very, very, very highly advanced societies and cultures here in the Americas. And when you take the depictions, everything is a perfect fit for us. Everything is. Not even that. When you do your genealogy, a lot of people is finding through their genealogy, they are indigenous to the land. That they have indigenous grandparents. You saying this one or two. You saying in one breath, oh, you can have indigenous, you can be an Indian, but it's not in your DNA. That don't even make sense. That don't make sense. I just think it's hard for people to walk through that. I think it's hard for people.
I'm just saying that they're on. Go ahead.
I just think it's hard for people to walk through that door. You know what I'm saying? So again, the way we did the debate is cool. You know, we could talk about it. Bam, it wasn't disrespectful, nothing. I'm cool with this. But at the same time, I just think there's a lot of brothers and sisters just they can't walk through that door for whatever reason. Not their time to walk through it. It's just overwhelming because at the end of the day, these people are way more demonic than what people think. So it is what it is, though.
There's an explanation. There's an explanation for why that indigenous DNA is not there, and that's a whole nother topic. But I was just pointing out to you that the African DNA is there, and it's high, right? 70, 80, 90% in people who are even on the roll, right? Because they're not using DNA to do it. So they're not tracking if they're actually losing indigenous blood, right? And if how much of the European blood was actually mixed in hundreds of years ago. They're not even tracking that shit. It's just, that's just what it's compiled of right now. But I was just trying to point out that even still, people on a roll have the African DNA. So, and the issue for the context of why he apologized, it says, under questioning, Beeson said they were concerned that a large Black turnout would hurt Republican candidates because this place was predominantly Black, like you said. The Black people were the concern. They were concerned about the Black people responding to what he said on that recording. That was their concern because they're not Aborigines. So he wasn't concerned about getting a secret out. He was concerned about them being offended by what he said and then affecting the Republican candidates.
Well, why did he say in that same video, if we give them a little bit ammunition? What is the ammunition? What was the ammunition about? That he would be giving the so-called Black community or Aboriginal community? Because he said, just because we give them a little bit of ammunition, what was the ammunition that he was hiding? That, you know, because we got to go back, like you said, context. We have to go back and look at the context. That's what he said. He gave them some ammunition. So what would be the ammunition of that?
That you calling me out of my name. You're looking at me and calling me an Aborigine, and then now I'm supposed to be voting for you. Like, why did you?
No, the ammunition. The ammunition is you said I was an Aborigine, and me understanding, and they've been clicked in the whole life that they've been lying for the last hundreds of years. Start falling down. And the thing of it is, still don't deny the fact that all throughout this country we have people who are still Black Indians who have not went over there, who have not went under the moniker as Black. It's a lot of people who haven't went under it. We are all in this illusion because we went under the moniker of Black and they changed the whole history of the world. And then again, we also have to understand when you get to Africa, a lot of Africans, and they be on YouTube on their podcast talking about their experiences in America. And they say this, they have never heard of a slave trade till they got here. If they took all these people from West Africa, that would be oral tradition in their family. Just like it's oral tradition in our family that we are indigenous. That would be oral tradition. That would be oral tradition for the Africans on the continent. A lot of them hear about slave trade till they get over here and get an American education. So they telling us something different. They telling the Africans something different. So we got to do our due diligence. I would just recommend anybody just do their studies on the antiquity of America. If y'all don't want to do that, that's fine. We can agree to disagree. Hopefully, as a community, we can build in a different way on different topics. But if not,
we got about 4 minutes left. Who do you want to? Is there more questions? I see one from Cujo.
Yes, let me find. There's a question that I had screenshot for you, and let's see.
Is that Cujo question?
No, that wasn't the question that I had. Okay. The question for IMHOTEP: what is your reply to the genetic data of African Americans being of majority West African descent?
I believe a lot of times the DNA is deceptive. The people who control the DNA that play into their narrative. I feel like a lot of things they plan on the DNA test. I don't believe they can go get all these people from the different coasts of Africa and connect that with each other. I'm not saying DNA, let's be clear. I'm not saying DNA is real. I think they manipulate the information because they have the power to do that.
And that's just what you think, right? You haven't proven it.
A lot of people, not just me, but I mean, it's cool. If you believe that they can take your spit and they told you Henry Gates, who do this DNA test, is 23. I don't know the specific one, but I know Henry Gates for sure said they make it up. He said it and he mocked it. Nobody believe you can take some spit and tell you what tribe you from. He said that. So he's the one said it. Like this stuff, nobody's making up. He said they're making it up.
Is he an expert?
But he is the one who he was the forefront of the person. He was going during all these interviews, telling all the celebrities about the DNA test and stuff. And he said they're making it up. He said Oprah called him, said make her a Zulu. So at the end of the day, they're doing that to put you over Africa, because forever, to the time immemorial, they will always have your land. When all the pyramids and everything that you're looking for is here, even when you start connecting with America, you're still going to have a connection with Africa, because then as you get deeper in America, you understand that the indigenous Americans went all across the earth.
You do notice that your bias is showing, because the guy apologized for doing something wrong, but what he did was wrong, and there's a cover-up, because you know what he really was doing, right? But then when the other guy says, hey, Oprah said, make me a Zulu, right? He's correct about that. So it's you're deciding, you're the one holding.
No, I'm listening to what he said. He said that don't nobody believe you can take some spit and tell you what tribe you from. He said that. He said that. That's two different total situations.
Right. And the other guy also said he was wrong for what he said.
No, but that's a different thing.
But he's wrong for saying he made a mistake.
You know what a Freudian slip is?
A Freudian slip, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's not always the case.
That was the first video.
Yeah, but you would have to prove it. You proving that we were always here would take you back to that instance, and you would say, look, we found out through whatever means, whatever methodology, that Black people are actually indigenous to this land. Then you would go back to what he said and go, that's a Freudian slip. He was actually probably telling the truth.
We already have done that. Y'all, some people, they haven't chose to go that far into it. They only have studied Africa. And at the end of the day, you're still going to be in La La Land, because at the end of the day, what African countries are you're from? Where African country? But why is these kings and queens? Where's the diaries of the families, the sisters, the brother? What was going on in Africa that they were giving their kings and queens? They giving some of their people away and wasn't. Now, if you say, okay, they were giving the Hebrews or the Moors away, we can start building on that. But when you talking about, just Nigeria, Nigeria didn't even exist. I'm not saying you saying that, but a lot of people do say that. That didn't even exist. It didn't exist. So you can't say these countries in Africa that didn't exist. You got to talk about the kingdoms. When we talk about America, we're telling you the tribes. We're telling you that go back to the bigger empire, the Mississippi Empire. When you talking about Africa, where it's just La La Land. But to each their own. Like I said, you got to study the history of America, the antiquity of America, the languages of America, the Hebrew language found in America, the artifacts that's found in America. You have to study all that different stuff.
Well, if that's the case and we use that formula, then America wouldn't even exist, because that shit didn't have the name either. But there's one more question up there. It's already 9 o'clock.
I just showed you America name was America when it came, and that I showed you that in the beginning.
Oh, in the beginning of this land, when the first people were here, they called it America. Okay, that's cool. So you can answer the last question if you want to, because we already passed 9 o'clock, and then we'll go ahead and close out. It says, how did the Portuguese, Spanish, Danes, British, and French all get together and create a lie about the transatlantic slave trade when they were constantly at odds with each other?
Oh, that's the one in the chat for me.
Yeah.
They got all different type of councils. They come together. They've been in here since 1492. So this is the 531st year the European has been in the Americas. So at the end of the day, through the hundreds of years, this has been a continual process. Yes, they was at odds with each other, but they all was in one thing. They all was in agreement on conquering this land. So it was divide and conquer. And from divide and conquer, that's how they got the land. And they were able to build this story and lies. They know what it is. That's why it's all in Europe. It's over. It's all out in the public. You got the pictures of the Moors, the statues of the Moors everywhere, all over Europe. So at the end of the day, they was in cahoots together all the whole time. And a lot of times you talk about them Portuguese, Spanish, Danes, and British and French. The early ones, I don't want to get all into that, but the first thing, it was a multicultural society over in Europe. A lot of those nations had a lot of black people there too. A lot of these people, you have a black European nobility, you have the European or the Albions, the whites, and all this history has been changed up. So the first people came up here, you got to look at what was going on in Europe before you even get to America. And then once it switched over and the Albions of Europe started ruling and taking over and everything, they came together and they putting this history out, you know. So we can go deep into that, but you got to just study the history of the Portuguese, the Spanish, the Danes, the British, and the French, and you'll understand that they was in conglomerate, or they were together in doing this.
Okay. All right. Good job, brother. Good job. All types of good deals, man. Hope you're satisfied with the debate or discussion, as you would call it. And I hope to talk to you in the future where we're just flat out sharing information, unlimited. You can do a presentation if you want, as long as you stay respectful. You don't fall into these other, you know what those areas are. It's a place where other people then drifted off to, and we just can't really communicate and do no type of moving forward. So if you just stay the way you are, we'll just be disagreeing about information, and then it can just stay there or it can go somewhere else. But thanks for showing up. Thanks for not backing out of the debate like a lot of other people did that came before you. I don't know how long you've been around, but it's good to get this information out and show your point, even though we don't agree on a lot of shit. And hey, man, I recommend you study some Black history before you even go to the African continent's history. Just study some Black history, and I'll do the same.
I studied that first. Studied Africa before I studied America, but thank you as well too. I'll just say that too. But we can agree to disagree, you know. So I feel like everything went smooth. So at the end of the day, this is all the work of the European imperialism, have us disagreeing on history. That's the reason they have hid the histories, to have us confused in this state. So I don't want to be into it where, you know, at the end of the day, we all in America, we got to build. They got 6 million immigrants over here. So much other stuff we still can build on. But one of the biggest things I would suggest to you is study the ancient history of America and the antiquities of America. North, Central, South, and the Caribbean islands, study the indigenous slave trade and the depictions of the American people, and do your genealogy as well.
Bet. Good deal, brother. Good deal, or good deals. Hoodoo, I don't have my outro yet made. I only have like 30. I have to go like 45 seconds of it and then some audio. So you can actually close out, and when you're done, just tell me when to shut it down. Thank you again, IMHOTEP, and everybody else on your side who showed up. And of course, thanks to the Pushites for showing up, and Hoodoo, great job moderating and even adding more to the, pausing the time. You can do that yourself. We don't even really have to request it. You see somebody stumbling in future debates, looking for something, just go ahead and stop the clock. That's perfect. And hey, man, thank all of y'all for the support. Peace.
Most definitely, and definitely do that when you guys are scrambling. I try to, make sure I stop that clock, because I know how that is, how stressful that is. Thank you, FACTZ and IMHOTEP, the great. It takes a lot of work to prepare slides and present, so no matter what side we may fall on, we appreciate you putting in your time and effort to participate in this debate. It's been a pleasure learning from you both. Thank you to all who tuned in. You are just as important and you matter. If you want to debate in the future, come get adjusted, and we out.
Thank you, guys.
Yo, wow. What's up, family? That was nice. Go ahead and make sure you guys hit the like button. Good debate. I'm gonna decide Mo is the winner for that debate. I don't think that brother really learned much in this debate. Mo had a lot of key facts drawn out, man. I love the slides. And shout out to Mo. Shout out to the team, Adjustment Syndicate, yo. Shout out to Hoodoo Butterfly, yo, for doing what she does. Shout out to her. She didn't have to do any of this stuff, but she has been working with us the whole nine. Shout out to the chat, man. Everybody showed up for this debate. I didn't really do a lot of promo for any of our debates on here, so we were mostly on YouTube. I had some issues and stuff personally, so I've been busy, y'all. But thank you guys for showing up. Like she said, in the future, if you guys want to see us or have issues with any of the subject matter that we've been talking about, you know, come see us in the square and we can get down. So I appreciate you guys coming over here. Make sure you guys follow Mo too, because he was streaming this on his side too. Support that brother, get that brother's book. And I'm gonna go ahead and close out again. Make sure you watch the debate that I had with Earth Speaks. We had a Earth Speaks debate. You dig what I'm saying? Don't you know, check that out. He got drugged. And the debate that I had today with Woken. Jam-packed entertainment. You're gonna like it. It's very educational and you will get something out of it. Go ahead and check it out. Oh yeah, I'm working on some t-shirts, yo. Let me show y'all real quick what I'm working on. I'm working on some stuff, yo. Let me see if I can pull it up. Try to show y'all this because this is funny. This is funny. Let me see if I can share my shit real quick. Yeah, hit Mo up, man. Shout out to Mo. I'm gonna show y'all this real quick. Bam. Check your boy out. PoorCityVibes.com. Go ahead and pick you something up nice. Type the word Abo Clown and you can have this shirt right here. Abo Clown. Go ahead and get those right now out, yo. I'm gonna be rock. I already ordered my shit. I'm waiting on my shit too. Yo, this is funny. But no, shout out to everybody. Peace to everybody. I'm gonna go ahead and close out with the outro music. But like I said, if you like what you're seeing here, go ahead and hit the like button. And stay tuned. Sudan's probably already on live right now on TikTok. I don't even know if I'm gonna stay up with them brothers tonight. But make sure you guys follow up with that, okay? Peace out. I'm gonna close out, and that's it, family.
With your relaxation, enjoy some cool vibration.
And I didn't think I'd live this long to see a nigga dance for a piece of chicken. I turned on my TV set and saw Hammer dancing for some goddamn popcorn chicken. That's a goddamn shame. Some pop. What is it gonna be next week? Watermelon chicken? Is this nigga's mama still alive? He could go to his grandmother's house and get a free piece of chicken better than that popcorn shit. For fucking popcorn chicken. Is that a bitch? He don't need the money. Hammer's on everything. I opened up my Snap, Crackle, and Pop, and he jumped out. Hammer time. It's a damn shame. He's on everything. I had to pull out my license, make sure he wasn't on that. He's on everything. Well, what white man had the nerve to go talk to MC Hammer? Ham, look. We've got a great commercial idea. We're gonna, this chicken, popcorn chicken. I want you to do that sort of nigger ghetto move when we give you the cue. We're gonna throw the chicken in the air. You'll catch it with those big nigger lips of yours. We know you won't miss. And just to make you feel comfortable, you can bring your little nigger friends with the loud outfits and the heavy pompadour, little Richard little hairdos. It's gonna be lots of money for you niggers, so don't worry about it. some very strange shit for a piece of fucking chicken. If somebody would come in and say, Paul, what you do, a commercial now, you're going to dance some chicken, I'd stab somebody. I'd be on hard copy.
Comedians on hard copy, he stabbed 2 producers because they wanted him to dance for a piece of chicken. We'll be back after this commercial.
You can bet it won't be a chicken commercial. But Hammer's little ignorant ass. Yes. For a piece of chicken. Yes. Does this mean I can build a bigger house, boss? No, I'm being real. Fuck that. I'm just trying to be real. It's just a late in the day. Fuck the bullshit. I'm not going for the bullshit no more. No. It's late in the day. The bullshit ain't necessary no more. Call it, call everybody. Fuck the bullshit. Niggas gonna dance for chicken, they gotta be called on it. Can't hold your head up high and you dancing for a piece of fucking chicken. No, the real white man, that white man's like, this white man's giving me that look, well, this nigga is sort of bright. Clever. Smarter than the average runaway.
Whites can help us, but they can't join us. There can be no black-white unity until there is first some black unity. We cannot think of being acceptable to others until we have first proven acceptable to ourselves. Concerning nonviolence, it is criminal to teach a man not to defend himself when he is the constant victim of brutal attack. There are problems in the community. Some of those examples of those problems are the vices that destroy the moral fiber in our community. Drunkenness, drug addiction, prostitution, organized crime that robs the Negro community of probably 90% of its economic potential and moral potential. One of my reasons for going out on the limb as I have is to try and make white people be shocked awake to some of their senses, because if they don't awake, they're going to find out that this little Negro that they thought was passive has become a roaring, uncontrollable lion right at their doorstep, not at their doorstep, inside their house, in their bed, in their kitchen, in their attic, in their basement. And if you know that in time, you can do something about it.